obsolete, irrelevant. In an age when desire has become amplified, but where lust can be sated electronically, we need something more than just a wooden box.
There is a mechanism. The house is ready. We can adapt.
Technology may have advanced, but sin remains unchanged. Pure. Greed, lust, lies, betrayal.
This new millennium hurtles forward. Faith is lost. Mankind have become a vacuum without morality. So many souls seeking new and darker experiences. Degradation upon degradation, sin after sin.
So then those are the souls we shall seek out first.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
Shall we begin?
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I am your host, Jason Bishop, and this week is part 2 of 31 Days of Horror. We've been talking 31 horror movies that we've never seen before over 31 days of October for 2018. So this is part 2. If you haven't heard part 1, stop, go back, listen to it. We'll wait.
A long time. It was a big episode.
Yeah. Long time. And with me today is the bastard son of 1,000 Steve Buscemi's, Sam Stepanenko.
I like that. I think I'm going to go with that from now on.
Steve Buscemi is great. We've talked about this, so yay. That's a compliment.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Even zombies won't eat her. Trish Coughlin.
Hey, I'm slow roasted. I think we've established. And I have the body fat that makes me quite tasty.
Well, your problem was you were at a vegan restaurant. Nobody was interested. None of those zombies were interested.
I know. Vegan zombies, the worst.
They are the worst.
That's the one thing you can't get out of them, right?
That's right. They're more concerned about their little goatee beards.
But you know what?
Vegetables.
At the end of the day, when you talk about zombies and vampires and all this stuff, think about it. They only eat free range. Organic food, essentially. Most of what they eat is free range.
You could make an argument that people who live in cities are like people who live in zoos and stuff, so...
Yeah, well, I don't know. The zombies eat sustainably. That's all I'm saying.
And returning this week, the final segment in the Human Centipede. Jeff Robertson.
Hey, you know what? It just depends on who I'm behind.
Good answer.
That would be everybody.
Yeah. Hence the term final segment.
And for the record, none of those movies will ever be on my list.
Oh, never.
You know what? Honestly, I will always make a case that the first one is a very decently done modern mad scientist movie. The other ones are trash. Don't watch them. But the first one, you could say, is pretty good.
I've made it about halfway, and I was actually kind of enjoying it.
Like, it's in terms of, people don't make mad scientist movies anymore. And that's basically what it is.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to continue. We're going to be doing 17 through 24 for this first round, and then we will finish out 25 through 31 on the next one. So, Trish is going to lead us off. That's right. Not a lot of preamble. We're just going to get into it because, man, last week was a monster.
We got a lot to get through.
That's right.
So I ain't going to do this. Okay. So, my number 17 was Beyond the Gates from 2016. It's a horror movie where they have those video, but I mean like videotape games where they're playing, but the whole game is like evil and they kind of get sucked into the game, like their dad goes missing.
Okay, I'm trying to remember, what was the board game from the 80s?
There's Nightmare.
Nightmare, that was the one.
What did you think of the movie?
I enjoyed it because it was just so 80s in camp. I really thought it was great.
If they'd had a budget, it would have been a great film.
Oh.
'Cause, you know,
absolutely.
I saw the premiere when it was in Calgary. There was a Q&A with the director, and I learned a lot of things about the movie during the Q&A. Basically, the person who wrote the movie was a massive fan of horror movies, and he massive fan of VHS board games, and the director really couldn't care less about any of it. It kind of explained some aspects of the movie that, there was some parts where there was a lot of reverence, and then other parts
Yeah.
where there wasn't at all.
Very true.
You're right. There is a great concept. I really enjoyed watching it. But, I mean, again, budget performances were meh. But
Barbara Crampton is great, though.
Yeah, she
Yes,
was, yeah.
She should be. I want to see a video board game with Barbara Crampton.
Barbara Crampton is good in everything, though.
Yeah,
let's be
she really
honest.
is. Yeah. But yes, that'll speed up things a little bit later on because I did it too.
Yay! Yeah, no, it was. I found it really enjoyable. But like you say, I get it. It seems some of the stuff they're kind of trying to shoehorn other bits in because apparently maybe the director just wanted to have. I have to have this other story. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Some of it.
After we finished watching it, I finished watching it, I should say. I'm like, oh shit, we should remake this because it could have been really good instead of being
Ooh.
okay. But it's only 2016, so that's a little bit new for our taste. But
Yeah.
I would love to tackle it and fix the little things that were.
It is a great concept, but even while I was watching it, I was like, there's so many ways this can be streamlined and
made
Well,
more entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah, in so many ways you could really delve into this videotape that's kind of controlling everything. You could get really into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first bit was a little draggy, but it got good.
The opening credits, though, were also
Yes!
phenomenal.
Yes.
Oh man,
That's where their budget went.
Yep.
I know. I was as soon as the opening credits started, I'm going, I am in. I love this.
I might have to check it out. I like the concept. So
Yeah, brings me right back. And then my number 18 was Little Evil from 2017.
I watched
nice.
that one last year, Netflix original, and that's a nice,
So good.
nice comedic take on The Omen.
Yeah,
Well,
it's fun.
It is fun, and part of it was I looked at I love Adam Scott. I think he's great, but part of it is I looked at it at the end of it. It's not so much a horror movie like with The Omen. It's just a treatise, an exploration of these relationships between step parents and children. Is essentially what it was. So, and Evangeline Lilly as the mother, it was great. I loved the turn in it. It was good.
No, I love that movie. I think I gave it a quite a glowing review as well.
Yeah, it's brilliantly done.
Last year was really good for horror comedies.
And you know, also Jay, feel free to take this out if it turns out that I'm wrong. But I believe that it was directed by the same person who did Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Ooh, and I really like that one too.
Yeah, and that movie was great.
But it makes sense because it's all about kind of taking the concept and turning it completely on its head, which is what they did.
Yes, but he also directed Zombieland.
Oh my God. Okay, let's have more from this guy.
Yeah.
Love it.
See, I did my notes in the same book. I did my last year's notes. I was on it.
Sweet.
I could check.
Super sweet.
Don't ask me to go back another year.
Because that's a completely different book.
It is a completely different book.
And it's everybody at home, it's a big notebook. It's not a tiny little
No.
handheld
This is
one.
the second or third one you're on now.
This is leading into my third one, but I'm still finishing off the second one.
And Jay also has tiny writings, so just imagine.
Yeah, I feel it.
He fills it right up. Okay, and then my number 19 was Minutes Past Midnight, which is an anthology one.
That was Rue Morgue put that out?
Yes.
Yeah. I have that, and I was telling you, I was like, man, I should have put that on the list because it's still in a shrink wrap. I
Nice.
still have it upstairs, unopened.
And it's good. It's very uneven. There's some high points and some super low points. But there's one about a serial killer who falls in love, but polka dots are his trigger. And it's so beautifully done. It's pretty. It's lovely. It is like one of the most romantically filmed things I've seen.
So just watch that segment and then don't worry about the rest.
There is another one though where I talked about I made this guy the director of C.H.U.D. He did a segment. It's near the end and it's about this carnival ride. These three kids they go and they put the money in and their friend kind of gets taken and then many years later they go there and there's this Grim Reaper on the top of it. The visuals of it are amazing.
So the person who directed C.H.U.D?
No, I made him the director in our thing.
Oh, okay. I was
Recasting.
going to say,
I
the person who
recast.
directed C.H.U.D, I didn't think made anything else, so...
Yeah, no. And then there was one, I'm trying to find the guy who did it because he pissed me off. There was
Knocking on doors.
there's one
Seen this guy?
segment, yeah, I think it's like Roid Rage is what it's called, and it's dumb. But then I saw the credits, I'm like, writer, director, editor, effects. I'm like, yeah, you're bad at all of these, dude.
Oh,
Because honestly, he's writing this thing where this like ass monster kills people. He's like only killing the immoral and the terrible and all that. No, it's just killing prostitutes.
ooh. I got an ass monster in one of mine coming up.
Nice. But it's like, he's like, okay, so I'm killing all the immoral and evil and terrible people in the world. No, just prostitutes. Like, not killing the pimps, not killing anybody else. This guy should go to like Washington if he's trying to do that. Fucking garbage.
So if you're listening, Trish would like to speak with you.
So like what? 2 out of 10?
For the whole thing,
I meant just that one.
oh, that one, 0.
0. Ooh, that's really bad.
really bad.
That's a fast forward.
Was that worse
If there's a
the,
negative number I could give it, I would.
Was
You can.
that segment
You can.
by
It's
itself
our show.
worse
Okay.
than the softcore porn ghost movie from last week?
Oh, the softcore porn ghost movie is Oscar winning.
In comparison?
Comparatively. Like, it's the Schindler's List of this movie.
Oh my goodness.
Good thing we're not grading on a curve here.
Yeah, I think
It would
yeah.
just bring everything down.
I could say his name, but maybe I won't shame him that much. But
Maybe not.
but I know who he is, and I know who you are, and you're short with shit, dude. Number 20 is Ghostmates. That was the one that was kind of on the cusp between horror comedy. It sort of is because it had ghosts in it, and I thought maybe. But Ghostmates is basically this guy dies in his apartment, and it comes out, it looks like his tie gets caught in the door, but I don't know, his pants are down for some reason, so people thought it was autoerotic asphyxiation. And so he's just haunting his apartment, and this guy moves in, but for some reason this guy's the only one who can see him.
Is this a comedy, right?
Yeah, and he helps him finish his unfinished business, because like part of
what the finishing the orgasm from the automatic.
no, kind of making sure people know it wasn't that. That's part of it. Okay. He's like, you have to tell people that's not
like,
it.
what a terrible thing to drive a movie. I'm like, I didn't get to finish.
Yeah, I'm sure
That's a whole new genre.
That's a whole new genre. That's a movie.
Just takes that one pottery scene from Ghost up a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Crap, if you do Minutes Past Midnight, if you just replace it with a short about that, I would love that. Better short.
I mean, a terrible way to die is autoerotic asphyxiation, but it's even worse if you didn't finish.
Yeah. Yeah, so
now it's just sad.
True. So, but it's sort of a sweet story where he's trying to have his friend do his unfinished business, like kind of make up with his dad and make up with his ex and blah blah blah. Because it's funny too, because the ghost itself, the guy who is the ghost, is a very selfish and kind of narcissistic guy. So he's really in his own way when it comes to finishing his unfinished business. Like, he fucks it up more than the other guy who's trying to help him.
Right. Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it was quite good. Number 21, Cinemaphobia.
Something we don't have.
No.
Trust me, we would have earned it by now.
Oh, absolutely. An Australian one. There is basically this overnight sort of horror movie marathon that they're having, but then these two guys come in, they're going to kind of shoot their own kind of guerrilla horror movie. They have no permits, they have nothing. This guerrilla horror movie about a killer in a theater, blah blah blah. Turns out there actually is a killer in this theater. Mm-hmm. And because it's a marathon, but they have a security guard and people can't go out or in, so they're kind of trapped in there, and the security guard's like, just this douche. It's great. it's quite dumb, but the ending, I found the ending very unsatisfying. There could have been a lot more.
I've heard of horror marathons that are like this, where they lock you in and you get shamed if you leave early, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and if you leave, you don't get back in.
Yeah, you don't get back in. It is a testament to willpower.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at least you get to pee. There's that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice.
You can go to the lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's pretty good.
I read an article about how, I think when Avengers Civil War came out, there was a bunch of theaters that were doing a...
Hey, it's Captain America Civil War.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It just feels like an Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Let's be correct here.
There was a bunch of movie theaters that were doing come watch every single Marvel Cinematic Universe movie in one sitting in the theater.
Oh, my.
So I was reading some person's article about...
just about over 2 hours.
Yeah, so I was reading this guy's article about what it was like to sit in a theater for like over 20 hours or something.
Oh, my God.
And everybody's experiences together and how everyone prepared and how sitting in a dark room and needing nothing but junk all day and like what that does and the smell and It was interesting.
Well, we did, when I was in university, we sort of did something like that. It was an all-night spaghetti western type of deal where they did a whole bunch of those. And it was like, I tapped out about 5 a.m. I fell asleep. I couldn't hack it anymore. But I also did they did it Halloween here in Calgary. They did like kind of an overnight from like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. movies. And that was a tough go. I tapped out at like 2, but it's a hard go if you're going to do that. I mean, you can get up and go pee, you can get up and go more snacks, but after a while, you're just...
Yeah. My butt
Spent.
hurts usually after one movie, so...
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
I do not have the wherewithal to do that.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, it's nice to go and try. 22 was C.H.U.D, so listen to that episode.
Yeah, just go
Nice.
back to listen to that episode.
Heard
It
that
just
movie
a
was
couple
really
weeks ago.
It is.
I heard everybody loved it.
Yeah,
Yeah, everybody-
It's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, people write songs about it.
Yeah.
And we did have like an amazing guest for that one, as far as I remember.
He was okay.
Okay, I guess I'm going to be the only nice one, Jeff.
Jeff's been here often enough that he can be abused just like everybody else.
True. True. And number 23, You're Killing Me from 2015. I think this actually came up from like a YouTube sensation who made a movie, but basically it's like a gay man falls in love with another gay serial killer.
I've read about this. I actually wanted to watch this one.
And it's actually fairly comedic. It's quite silly. There's some bits where it's really dark, but a lot of it is quite over the top. Like he just gets released, and then as he's disposing of a body, they have their meet cute.
Pardon the pun.
Yeah, exactly. Meet cute. Yeah, pardon the pun.
Your favorite in the shorts was a romantic horror, and now you've got a romantic horror movie.
Yeah. I think there's a genre there. I think this is something that could happen.
There's actually, afterwards, I could give you a whole list of great romantic horror movies, surprisingly.
Cool.
I have got one on my list.
I count Shaun of the Dead as actually a romantic horror movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would.
Because it's very much like the love story sort of drives it, but there is a lot of killing
Yep.
and a lot of blood. And my number 24 is The Nun.
Oh, what'd you think?
Okay, yeah, I'm very curious about this because these spin-offs from The Conjuring
Yeah.
have gotten usually off to a really rocky start. Annabelle was meh, but
Has
the
anyone else
sequel's
here
better.
seen The Nun?
I have not
I
seen
have not
The
seen
Nun.
the one.
Oh, so it's just me and Trish.
Sam and I have had none of this.
None of this, no. And I won't be seeing it because I'm not a big fan of the Conjuring universe.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that
Ooh.
habit.
Oh, man.
My goodness.
I can't help myself.
You can't. Well,
I'm done. I'll be good.
you must confess you're done. That's a deep one. That'll take people a while. Let's get on with it.
That joke was a little bit unconventional.
Okay, Sam, you're up.
This is why you're only a guest.
Yeah, no, I don't do puns.
Yeah, you do sometimes. You've done one or two.
One or two, but yeah, they're...
He saves them up.
I
He
save
saves
them up,
them
and
up.
I wait till they're really, really good. But yeah, I'm not quick on them. I have to save them.
Yeah. Part of it, I kind of like the idea of like, I think, was it Romania they were in? And being in a convent and being isolated in the middle of nowhere. I always liked that concept. Always old convents, old buildings, spirits in them. What I had a bit of a trouble with was I liked it when it was just like Valak and it just kind of happened to like choosing being a nun. But it seems in this one, it's more like this just was like a nun demon. And I wasn't really on board with that. And then I had many questions at a certain point where the one main character, she's like, well, I would like to take my vows now. I'm like going, don't you kind of have to do that on a church? And I think this is you've just said it's a very unholy place. So does that count?
Actually, no, throughout the whole movie, sorry, spoilers for people who haven't seen The Nun, throughout the entire movie, they make a point of mentioning that she hasn't taken her vows yet. And there's even the point where this one creepy person's like, you haven't taken your vows yet.
Yeah.
And so you'd think that would play into the plot of the movie
Right?
at all.
And it doesn't pay off at all.
Not at all. Although, after I watched the movie, I did a quick search on the internet, and I found out that was one of those movies where they shot half of it and then had to hire somebody else to finish it and change bits.
Oh.
So it makes a lot of sense. The whole movie's very uneven.
You'd think they would have learned with Annabelle, like, don't rush these things out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know you want to do this Conjuring universe.
Well, and I think
And-
two of the better
Yeah.
Conjuring universe spin-offs, like being Annabelle I was thinking of franchises. Annabelle Creation is really good, but that's directed by somebody who I think is like a horror auteur a little bit, being David F. Sandberg.
Mm-hmm.
And for these movies, James Wan is a person who is an auteur in terms of film. Why not just hire people who have interesting creative visions and get them to do the movie?
And this one's a valid, is an original creation whole cloth. I mean, at least The Conjuring is inspired by the real life Warrens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Annabelle was a real doll, or Raggedy Ann doll, but now it just seems to just fuck it. You know?
Yeah.
We don't have the rights to Amityville.
And,
and
I'm
some
a
of
really
these
big
other...
fan of the subgenre of nunsploitation, like nun horror movies, and this was really the movie where they had the opportunity to really try to play up the imagery and the whole blasphemous nature of everything that I feel was probably the biggest missed opportunity of all.
I think one of the largest, and here's one of the things that bothered me most, one of the hugest, and this is just something that just kind of niggled at me, is it's about nuns, but you spend most of your time with two male protagonists. It seems to me if you're going to do a movie about nuns, maybe put a lot of women in it who are, I don't know, nuns.
Yeah.
Like they sort of show up way in the background, but yeah, if you're going to do it, do it. Like I would have liked to have seen it basically about this nun going to this convent and all this stuff happening. I don't like how it began. It doesn't make much sense to me.
Like I was going to say, the beginning was strong in terms of a set
True.
piece. It was a good launch off point for a movie, but they didn't really do much with it.
Or like if you'd had the one young nun, she's like going, okay, well, you're still a novice, but like to kind of finalize, we're going to send you to this one very far off convent just to kind of finish off your training. That seems a perfectly reasonable place to start. And then all this other stuff starts happening. Like the beginning of the movie is where I would have began it. I would have began it with all this horrible stuff happening and ended with that set piece, essentially.
Oh, yeah, no, exactly.
That's a better movie.
It's kind of like, for my brief thoughts on Annabelle, the very first one, I thought it was actually a pretty passable, like, decent horror movie, except at the very end, she's holding the doll, and she's smashing the doll against the ground. The perfect opportunity for it to have been her child. And she killed her child. Right? And then her husband walks in as she's killed her child. And then the doll passes on from there.
Because part of it is the doll is affecting what she's seeing, what she's experiencing, right?
There's even a brief moment where the doll makes her think that her baby is the doll.
Yes.
And I feel like the whole movie was leading up to that, and then it didn't go that direction because it was too dark.
Now that you mentioned it, I remember when I was watching this, like I saw her doing it, and I felt sick because I thought that's what was happening.
I feel like in terms of these spin-offs, they really need to lean more into doing things that make people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because especially in terms of a franchise of horror movies, they really need to do something to set them apart from everything else. So.
Exactly. And it's and also like they just, I mean, God damn it. That first, again, the beginning of The Nun, that's the end of a good movie. You should have done that movie. Yeah. I would have loved that movie. But you didn't.
You done fucked up, kid.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
What keeps you alive?
Food.
I
Sleep.
Write that down. I think it's 2016.
Oxygen. This is an easy question.
It is an easy question. Again, this is another one where there's a serial killer, but it's two women and they're married and they're going on
serial killer week here.
I did. And they're on their honeymoon at a cabin in the woods, and it's like you find out the one woman is like just a psycho, and like she's brought her wife there, and like she just wants to kill her. And it's a cat and mouse game. It's really, I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it.
I think if we've learned anything from horror is don't go to a cabin in the woods.
No, right? Not even for your honeymoon.
By now.
Like, or no 1 year anniversary. Not even for your 1 year anniversary. No anniversary. Just stay away from the cabins. And if you go, maybe go alone and bring a chainsaw. Just do that.
I mean, you don't kill people who are close to you. That's like serial killer 101.
Well, it's a weird thing. She had a previous wife who died under quote unquote mysterious circumstances. It's one of those ones she gets off
the
on
Black Widow thing, kind of almost.
Yeah, kind of getting so close and like getting away with it type of deal.
I think I was going to say Fred Durst, but no, the guy Robert Durst got away with it for quite a while. So
He
Fred
did.
Durst got away with so much worse, though.
I think she's also wealthy, so I think that explains it.
Yeah, the terrors and horrors to music.
Yeah. Well, if you got money, apparently that's part of it as well. So, But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was very well done. There's a bit of a slow burn to it, but the kicker at the end is awesome. And what I thought about it, I'm like going, oh my God, that makes so much fucking sense.
Cool.
Nice.
Definitely check that one out.
All right, so that was the last for the week?
Yeah.
All right, Sam.
This is probably my weakest week for this episode, but there's still some really good stuff on it. My number 17 was Scherzo Diabolico. I can't even say it. Diabolico. There we go.
Sounds Italian.
It is Mexican.
Oh.
Yes. Directed by Adrian Garcia Bogliano. So good. It starts off as a abduction kidnapping. This office worker is not getting the promotions, not getting the money. His wife's on his case about how they're supporting the family and all that stuff. So he kidnaps his boss's wife. And that's the first act and a half. And then the second act and a half, it goes in a completely different direction. It completely messes with you and it completely turns things around. Another one of those movies that does not have the ending you expect in any way, shape, or form. And it goes from being this sort of really neat, slow burn kidnapping abduction thriller to being a really gory slasher type thriller in the last half. It's so much fun to watch. Highly recommend it. It's subtitled, so if you don't want to read a movie, then it's not the movie for you. And it's beautifully shot. Like,
we're not afraid of subtitles.
No, we're not.
Unless they're out of sync. Amazon.
Yeah, but it's one of those movies I was looking for a horror comedy. This movie is not funny in any way, shape, or form. But it was under a list of horror comedies that I was looking at. I'm like, oh, that sounds really interesting. So I watched it and really, really enjoyed it. So I'm definitely going to recommend that one.
You enjoyed it, but you're like, wait a second. This makes me feel not happy.
It totally did. It totally did. It really did turn itself on its own head. And the interesting part is the movie's named after a piece of classical music that plays a very prominent role in the movie. So it ties very nicely into it.
Cool.
That sounds wonderful.
It really was. And it's not that long. It's only about an hour and a half. It's really well constructed, that you have a really defined beginning and a very defined end. And the middle is just muddy enough to make it feel like real life.
Cool. I think that Mexican horror movies as well are kind of, that's an area of the world that people don't really expect to look into to see lots of stuff, but there's lots of good stuff coming out of there lately.
There really is, and I was really pleased to find that, and that was from 2016, I think I mentioned. Another one from 2016 was my number 18. I watched Havenhurst, directed by Andrew C. Aaron and written by Daniel Ferrens, and starring Julie Benz, and that's all I'm going to cover for casting.
Nice.
This one is really interesting. It's about a very large, elaborate apartment building that is solely for recovering addicts and alcoholics. And people keep disappearing from the building. They go in, but they never come out.
Ooh.
Right? And it's, again, without giving away too much, all these people who don't come out are people who have failed in their recovery.
Ooh. The cost of
The cost of failure, yes.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a very interesting story. It's kind of got that whole Strange Color of Your Body's Tears feel, because there's some similar elements. It's not as well done. Again, I loved how many of these I found this year where the ending is not what you expected. It's not a feel-good ending.
And conceptually, that's a really interesting thought, because like you think about it, people are going in, and it's sort of, when people think about addicts, it's one of those like unsympathetic diseases. People don't really care that much, so it's fascinating.
It really was, and it gets kind of tropey parts in certain parts, but the house itself is a great character, or the apartment building, I guess it is, because it's massive. So it's a great character. The lady who owns the building is a phenomenal character. She is so elegant. Ooh. Her two sons, they're kind of tropey, and the added character of sort of the preteen girl felt a little tropey, but it works really well into the film later on. So
Cool.
yeah, another one that one's on Netflix, so I would recommend watching it because it's a good time killer.
these comedies are still elusive for you.
They really are, because then my next one was Beyond the Gates, which wasn't really funny.
You know, that's actually, touching back on it again, that movie should have had a lot more, like, Evil Dead 2-ness to it.
I think that would have added something to the movie, yeah, because there was a couple moments there when they're looking for the keys, where it kind of had a chance to go there, and almost did. There's that one scene where the guy's shooting at them through the cardboard boxes.
Yes.
Through cardboard boxes.
Yeah, they're taking refuge behind cardboard boxes.
And that was budgetary again. We're talking about budget on this particular movie, but But yeah, there was a moment right after that where it went right into Evil Dead territory for just a brief moment, and then it's flattened out again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that whole movie needs to be at a 10, and it just reaches a 7, mostly.
Yeah, about that, yeah. The next one is probably my worst watch of the week. It is Satanic, directed by Jeffrey J. Hunt and written by Anthony Jasinski, starring Star Hyland. And this, I'm not saying it's bad, it was just my worst one of the week. It's an interesting concept on Satanism for young people. They're not teenagers, they're adults, but they're on their way to Coachella, and on their way, they're doing these stops at all sort of these terror places, right? Like the Manson murder house, and they somehow get involved with, they end up following a Satanist to a satanic ritual, and how that all sort of starts to affect them. And it's really another one without the happy ending. That's 3 in a row, or 3 out of 4 that haven't had a happy ending.
Nice.
But it's one of those movies that had some really great potential that wasn't quite met. There's a really great scene near the end of the movie that actually at the beginning of the movie that pays off really well at the end, but the middle of it kind of is mushy. It doesn't quite get there for the rest of the movie. Great beginning and end, not so much a middle. But the performances by all the actors in it were excellent, and there's some great scenes in the motel room that really are almost shocking. I mean, for a horror watchers like we are, it's hard to find a truly shocking scene, but they had a couple moments where I'm like, ooh, that was almost there. So again, not a bad movie. My movie 21 was Forest of Lost Souls from Portugal in 2017, directed and written by Jose Pedro Lopez. Shot in black and white, one of the most stunning films I've watched in a long, long time. Like it's definitely on my list. I put this in my top 3 for the month. It's really, really slow burn. It starts off in everybody's heard of the sort of the Japanese suicide forest. They kind of take that concept and move it to Portugal.
Cool.
Okay.
And the first act of the movie takes place in the suicide forest, and then it goes off the rails, and you go into completely different places again. I had a few of these this year where you get this movie, then you're thinking, oh, this is really interesting, this is kind of fun, a little slow but kind of fun, and then all of a sudden everything just sort of changes direction on you, and you get something that's completely different. This movie moves you into serial killer territory, actually.
Oh, wow.
Later on in the movie, and it also ends up at a music festival. Seeing a theme here.
Interesting.
Coachella and Suicide Forest?
Yeah, and
Nice.
so another one I'd recommend, another one you have to read. Right? But the second half of the month was my foreign month, my foreign movie.
I think I almost watched that one too.
It's gorgeous. It is so beautifully shot. I mean, for black and white, it just ties really well together. And not understanding Portuguese, I don't know how good the acting was, but the physical acting was really good. And the writing was excellent. Like, it really examines the motivations of suicide, and it examines the motivation and how it affects families. Part of the whole story feeds into, it starts off, well, it doesn't start off, but one of the things that sort of affects one of the families in this movie is the fact that one of the daughters had committed suicide. And then the father is in the suicide forest because he's not dealing with the death of his daughter very well.
Right.
And that's sort of where the movie starts, is with him in the forest, and this other character who is a regular visitor to the forest because every time she goes, she can't do it.
Wow. Definitely going to watch that.
But it's funny. She's educating him. It's kind of funny because she's educating him and says, well, you don't want to do poison because it's long and painful. You don't want to stab yourself because it's hard to stab yourself. You need a gun. Like, she's explaining to him the best way to kill himself. If he's going to do it, this is the best way to do it. So it's painless and quick. So another one I'd recommend. This one I'll just talk about briefly because Jay did it last year, but I was lazy on the for movie 22. I watched Autopsy of Jane Doe because it was on my list. I didn't enjoy it as much as Jay did.
I also enjoyed it too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that movie.
I loved the first 2 acts. I really didn't like the third act.
Okay.
It moved from a really interesting type of sort of spiritual thriller to the witch thing, which was really interesting. It just felt almost overblown to me. Like it almost went too far over for me. But
there's a new one coming up, and I wish I could remember the name of it because I saw it as a trailer at the theater. Something coming up by Blumhouse, and essentially looks like Blumhouse's version of Autopsy of Jane Doe, but like the cadaver's off the table and chasing people around, lots of jump scares, and I'm like, yeah, I like the subtlety of Autopsy of Jane Doe.
And that's what I loved about it, and then for for it to sort of move into that territory where it's really so much is happening. It was almost.
There's a lot of information thrown in at you in that third act.
There is, and I think if they just toned down the violence of the action just a little bit, I think it would have been creepier. Especially the sacrifice at the end, it just would have felt more powerful.
Yeah, another bummer ending.
Yes.
Yes.
So that is everything except for Beyond the Gates so far has had a bummer ending. Has had I don't want to call them bummer endings. I want to call them slightly more realistic endings.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
There's no hero. Wow, it's great. Yay.
Okay. Now number 23. Now this one pisses me off because I watched the wrong version.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I did not know that this movie had been remade when I wanted to watch it.
Right.
So I wanted to watch L'Intérieur from France from 2007. I ended up watching the 2017 remake, the North American remake, which was good. Don't get me wrong. It was good. It was a great variation of the home invasion stalker type movie. Right? It's this woman whose husband dies in a car accident just after they found out they are pregnant. And so she's a single mom and she's sort of going through this by herself now. And this other woman decides that she wants this baby.
Oh, yeah. I think I remember hearing about this one.
Yeah. And it's really well done and it is really well acted. And it's actually, parts of it are actually surprisingly terrifying. But we're talking about bummer endings. The French version has a real downer ending that they Americanized in the remake, and it has the happy ending.
Right.
It's always strange when people do that.
For some reason,
it's
American
typical.
studios don't think American audiences can handle a downer ending. But we saw the success of that with Seven as a great example of where where it worked really well.
Even in other American remakes, I mean, I don't think that they count as much. Like the American remake of The Grudge was made by the same director as the original.
Yeah.
But there's some American remakes that are able to translate over fine. But then there's others where they adhere to this formula that's not quite enough of a thing to be a trope. But it's starting to be? It's
starting to be, yes. It's where you take an original ending and make it into the same ending you get from every other fucking movie.
Yeah.
With a happy family or the happy mother and child. I was disappointed because I knew that the original movie didn't have your standard ending. And then to get it going out of a movie that I was enjoying was really disappointing. Because I'm like I was looking forward to not having the happy ending, and I didn't necessarily have to have the same ending that I knew was in the original, but I would have liked to have seen something in a similar vein.
Right.
So I'm still going to watch the French version after in a little while. Maybe we can even cover it because it is a remake.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah, because I would say it's a good movie. It just wasn't a great movie because of the way they changed the ending, and gave you the stereotypical ending. And then my movie 24, the last one for this week, was Extremity from 2018 from Anthony de Blasi. He's one of my favorites. He's done some really fun horrors that I've watched. There's Casadega and The Last Shift. Both really enjoyed both of those. So when I saw that he had a new one out for just in time for Halloween, 31 Days of Horror, nice. I'm like, hell yeah, Christmas doesn't happen in Halloween.
Halloween is our Christmas, kind of.
Yeah. I genuinely wish that Anthony de Blasi could get a budget,
right,
and get some support, some support from one of the horror studios like Blumhouse or somebody along those lines, because he's really great with visuals, has some fun stories, but you can tell that he's limited by his budget.
Yeah, I thought that with Casadega, but a couple on my list for this week. He's getting way better budgets and using them a lot better than some of the others, but, some guys just know to use their money better.
Yeah, but if he's not considered a voice of horror, he should be, because he takes what your sort of traditional horror stories and gives them to you, but he always puts his own twist on them, so they're just a little bit different, so you don't feel like you've watched the same movie that you've seen a dozen times before. This one is really interesting because he takes the concept of the extreme haunt, right, where some people go.
Boy, that one's popular this year.
Yeah. It is, but he kind of turns it on its head. Is he takes the extreme haunt and he turns it into a form of psychotherapy. Like people go into it for psychotherapy to help them get over their fears and all that fun stuff. And the extreme haunt part of it is truly extreme. There's some moments in there where things happen, and then later on you're like, holy shit, because the thing that you saw happen affected something else later on in the movie. So basically, it's the story of a woman who goes in because she's afraid of fucking everything. Right. Her father has traumatized her. He's sexually abused her. So it's horrifying in that way as well. But so she's trying to get over the damage her father has done to her, and there's this really amazing scene where they have her in a sensory deprivation type tank. You see her slowly breaking, but not the way they expect.
Right.
But the way you expect, because it's a horror movie.
Yes. Nice.
But yeah, the third act, the payoff is pretty decent, but it's also kind of tropey.
Right. Cool. Well, that sounds like it was an interesting week. A lot of bummers. You did say it was your weaker week, but it didn't sound like it was a bad week.
Oh, no. My last half of the month was really strong. I would have to say that my favorite was probably Forest of Lost Souls, and my least favorite was Satanic, and again, just because they just missed the mark a little bit on a few things.
Right. Did you tell me what your favorite was from last week?
I don't think I did.
No, I don't think you did.
Yeah, no, Minutes Past Midnight, definitely the low point.
Okay.
Just because that one just really put a bad taste in my mouth.
Right.
You know, there's so many good things. I enjoyed Beyond the Gates and Little Evil, but what keeps you alive was just, I just really enjoyed that one. Like, for just really scaring me.
Right. Cool.
Oh, it's unbearable, isn't it? The suffering of strangers, the agony of friends. There is a secret song at the center of the world, Joey. And its sound is like razors through flesh.
I don't believe you.
Oh, come. Oh, you can hear its faint echo right now. I'm here to turn up the volume. To press the stinking face of humanity into the dark blood of its own secret heart.
And I'm here to stop you and send you back to hell.
Oh, no, you can't stop me, child. But you don't have to hear the music. Just give me the box, and I'll free you from the future.
Free yourself from the past.
Don't debate with me, girl! Just come here and die while you still have the option of doing it quickly!
You're gonna have to come and get me, you ugly fuck.
Oh, spirited. Oh, good. Oh, very good. Oh, I'll enjoy making you bleed. And I'll enjoy making you enjoy it.
All right, well, on to my list for this week. I started off with, this might make you sigh a little bit because this franchise has gotten awfully tired, Hellraiser Judgment.
Ooh.
From writer, director, and makeup guy. Also stars in this movie Gary J. Tunnicliffe.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
Oh, we're seeing a theme here, too, aren't we?
You can't spread yourself thin.
It is not a no-no. Believe it or not, even though he did the last travesty, this one's pretty good. All things considered, the budget is super micro. They must have given him a little bit more budget than last time because that was just looked awful. It was just a terrible, terrible movie. But this one's not bad. Like it's only got a budget of like $650,000. I'm like, Jesus, he must work for a studio and just borrow the equipment at night or something. Because, like, Jesus Christ. And no wonder you did everything. But from what I could tell, this guy came from, like, doing Hellraiser fan films, and now he just makes them. And I'm sure this is just a way for the studio to keep the property alive.
Yeah.
But they need to put some money back into it, but this one's actually pretty decent.
You know, it's crazy that Clive Barker's been really trying to make his own remake for a couple of years.
And I hope it happens. I hope it happens. This is a good property that needs a bit of a coat of fresh paint and a reboot for sure. But this one ain't bad. It's about a detective who's investigating these serial murders that he's responsible for.
Oh my god.
So he's investigating his own murder spree. And it's very much tied to sins that these people have been committing, except this serial killer is being protected by heaven. And and there's a little subplot of Pinhead's looking for a new way because these boxes are getting old with new technology.
Yeah, people aren't playing with boxes.
But it doesn't seem to flesh out that much. There's basically what I call the therapist Cenobite, which is the director, who's actually a pretty decent actor, actually.
Nice.
and he's kind of afraid of the gore. Like, he looks away when people are getting tortured and shit.
Wow.
I'm like, well, that's an interesting twist. Somebody who's a Cenobite but doesn't like his job that much.
It's sounding like a really great concept, actually.
Actually, it would have been really good with some money behind it.
Wow.
The acting's dubious on this, considering the budget, and sometimes it doesn't look as good as it should. There's one really creative Cenobite where this big fat dude comes in this wooden baby mask. It's really creepy, and then he turns around and this dude in kind of a leather gimp mask pops out with these curved blades and just starts chopping away at somebody. It's really cool. Which is a pretty cool looking thing for something that had no budget. Like, I can imagine how they would have done it on a budget, but for what they did, it was pretty cool looking. For having no fucking money at all.
That's also kind of coming up a little bit to this today too. Is these budgets that could have been, or the movies that could have been great with a budget.
Mm-hmm.
Although after the last Hellraiser movie, would you have given him a budget?
No, well, probably not. But I bet you the budget on that one was even half of this one.
Yeah,
like it was. That's how bad that movie looks.
Yeah.
But,
well, it's cool to hear that's going.
And they got a better actor this go around to play Pinhead that looked a little bit more the part. Obviously, we're not getting the original anymore, but
no,
they can't afford him, and he's getting a little old.
Yeah, well, Jesus, the paycheck for him would be what the budget of the movie was.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm kind of like, I'm hoping there's one more because they do leave it open ended, just so I could see. I don't know, complete his trilogy, I suppose. Although the first one was terrible, but. At the same time, come on, like maybe it's time to put this back out there with the bigger budget, and hopefully they're thinking about it with the success of franchises returning to the big screen. So
yeah, I think Halloween will be a big game changer for other
I think
properties.
so, and I'm sure everybody's going to be thinking about it now.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully hard and doing it properly rather than the crap we were getting the last go around.
I mean, really, honestly, if Blumhouse puts out Spawn and it's really good, and Todd McFarlane is obviously directing it. Well, that could mean a lot for bringing back properties, but from a real creator standpoint.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
From a bigger studio?
I don't think Todd's got any experience directing, so I bet you he's going to be like co-directing with somebody because I can't see if Blumhouse is behind it, they're not going to let.
No,
him
yeah,
do
that was like part of his contract is that it would like he's never directed before, but it'll be his first movie.
I'll be interested to see how that goes. I think there'll be changes along the way.
There might be some uncredited work done.
Todd's a loud man.
You know, he's probably going to be working a lot with the cinematographer.
Oh, I know who's going to be doing the hard work, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, my second one, number 18, it was probably the best horror comedy I've seen all month. I didn't actually find great horror comedies except for this one. And it's funny when you talk about the shootout behind the cardboard boxes because this one's all about cardboard boxes.
Oh.
This is Dave Made a Maze from 2017. It was written and directed by Bill Watterson. No, not that one.
No, not Calvin and Hobbes.
No, with additional story and screenplay by Steven Sears. And this one's out of the U.S. This one's great. This one's so great because dude just got bored, starts building a cardboard maze in the middle of his living room. And he's the whole movie's about this dude who never finishes anything. Oh, the door needs to be fixed. He gets halfway or whatever.
Yeah.
Starts things and never finishes them. So he really wanted to finish this. And boy, did he go crazy. So when his girlfriend gets home, he's in the maze. He's lost in his own maze.
Sweet.
And he's like, don't tell anybody I'm in the maze. I'll find my way out. Don't worry. And he's like, just come out already. Not really thinking much of it because it's a living room. How big could it be, right?
Yeah.
It's huge. It's got its own monsters and traps and
Sweet.
and there's this dude who's filming a documentary who shows like they have a little maze party and then people start going into the maze.
Wow.
I need to see this because when this popped up on your Twitter feed, I'm like, fuck, I need to see this.
There's a Minotaur with its cardboard head. Everything's made of cardboard. Everything. At one point, a lady gets beheaded by a trap, and her head falls off, and out squirts like red confetti and yarn.
Oh my god!
No, I totally need to see this. Like I said, as soon as I saw the
It doesn't feel like a traditional horror movie. It certainly has horror elements, but it's kind of like the ultimate hipster horror movie.
What I'm picturing though is like I'm picturing kind of like a Mighty Boosh, Benny and the Bull.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah, I think it's certainly inspired by things like that. It is so imaginative. There's actually at one point they're all turned into like paper bag puppets.
Whoa.
For a short period. It is a sheer joy. Some great dialogue. It is just insane.
Excellent.
And so much fun. This was a point where I just needed a little bit of a break anyway, so I wanted something a little lighter, and man, did that fit the bill and just made me happy.
Nice.
I'm gonna have to buy that movie at some point because I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Definitely one of the best of the week, but there's a couple of really good ones on this week. So.
Cool.
Number 19, probably the only animated film we've ever done on this show as far as 31 Days of Horror anyway. And that is Constantine, City of Demons from 2018. Directed by Doug Murphy, written by comic book writer J.M. DeMatteis, and starring Matt Ryan, who starred in the Constantine television series and is still making appearances on Legends of the DC Universe or whatever it's called.
The Arrowverse?
Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Legends of Tomorrow.
Just that one?
Well, that was where I think he last appeared.
He was in one episode of Arrow.
Yeah.
But I believe that he is now reoccurring on Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm a bit
The worst of
behind,
the
but
series. Of the
I heard it got quite good.
Yeah,
maybe give it
I
another
don't know.
shot.
I'd already
I
given
kind
up
of
at that point.
gave it up a little bit, but then I saw a thing about how there's an episode where they go back in time to the Viking Age, and through a time portal, something that's essentially a Furby went through, and this whole village worships like the Furby, and then it like says it's factory things, and it thinks that it's telling them to kill.
Yeah,
people.
that sounds like it's gotten way better.
Yeah,
And,
it just felt cheaper than the rest of the
as soon
Arrowverse
as I-
stuff.
It seems pretty great.
Anyway, I've
does
watched
sound fun.
other animes that were part of the Arrowverse. This is one of those. Usually they're pretty terrible, to be honest. This was really good. They don't really recognize the rest of the Arrowverse stuff in this, despite being Matt Ryan. And Sam will be pretty familiar with this. Any Hellblazer reader will probably be fairly familiar with. This is based on the horrors of Newcastle, so the horrors from John's youth are coming back to haunt him.
Cool.
And as everything's kind of repeating itself, this time the same demon has taken Chaz's daughter, and it's got the twists and turns you would expect from a Constantine story. And if you're unfamiliar with how traditional Constantine stories go, well, you can go watch that movie, or better yet, just go read some of the classic Hellblazer comics, because despite being the heroic character, bad things happen to... There are sacrifices to be made to be the hero, and it usually results in anybody who's around in front of Constantine's life crumbling apart.
Oh, wow.
Do you think it makes any connection with the TV show that he was in?
Yeah,
Because they kind of ended off on a bit of a...
No, well, I mean, yes and no. It's part of that universe, absolutely, but I don't think it's there to tie threads off from that series. No, it's even despite its R rating, it is an R-rated anime. I think it's still a softer version of the traditional story from the comic books.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed it. I have to
Nice.
say, I really enjoyed it. The animation was actually pretty good. I always worry when I get these DC animes because the ones out of Japan are great, and then you get that one from Korea that's just awful because the animation is kind of dodgy. But this one was one of the ones out of Japan and had a nice look to it. I really enjoyed it. I think it's worth a look if you're unfamiliar with the DC direct videos, do yourself a favor. There's a lot of good ones out there. Like I said, the ones that tie into the Arrowverse, not so much, but the Suicide Squad ones, the last couple have been really good. So and lots
correct me if I'm
of
wrong.
good Batman ones.
I think this one was originally released as a web series.
It was
cut together as a
originally
movie.
released as a web series.
Did
and
you
this
find it
was cut together.
flowed well as a movie?
This one did. The Ray did not, and what was the other one? Vixen. Vixen also didn't flow very well. You can see the segments. This was just one cohesive story.
Cool.
It worked out pretty
Okay.
good. You could kind of see where some natural theme breaks would be within the segments, but they feel more like a scene in a movie.
Cool.
So it's just the night they're
more like act breaks then.
yeah, they're act breaks. You can kind of see where that break would have happened if it was a web thing, but it flows perfectly fine as a film. So.
Cool.
I spill my own blood now to show respect. Thank you for letting me into your house. Thank you for hearing.
I've been keeping tabs on you, Constantine, and I've been keeping innocent little Trish.
Bastard, where is she?
She's somewhere in the bowels of hell, screaming your name.
I want my little girl, and if anyone can get her back, it's you. Lovely.
You have no idea what's out there.
We're messing with deep, dark magic here.
This could destroy my city. I need your demons to fight these demons.
I'm gonna need a weapon. Remember what you said about sacrificing anything for Trish? Did you mean it? Yes!
If there's one thing I've learned over the years, is that there are no happy endings. There never are. There's always a price to pay.
Jesus, John! Are you all right?
No. But I'm alive, and that's got to count for something, right?
Okay, number 20, another comedy. And this will make Trish very happy. I think I'm the last person here. We've talked about it over the last two of our 31 Days of Horror over the last 2 years. And I just finally said, I've watched it, now shut the fuck up. What We Do in the Shadows from 24.
You know, that movie's a gem.
I'm not going to shut the fuck up. I love that movie.
So, written and directed by Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi, who've both gone on to some great things, and they're also in this movie. So, I don't really need to sing the praises of the movie. I'm finally glad I got to watch this kind of documentary style. And it just makes me excited to see the series. Now that once I knew a series was coming, I'm like, okay, maybe this is the time. Like, yeah, I know I'm the last person on the planet to watch this, but I'm glad I waited. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
It's a good time. It's a concept. You're like, why didn't anybody think of this before?
Yeah. That was a movie where I think I waited for that movie for 2 years to come out, because I believe the first trailer came out quite a while before the movie was released, and it was a long time coming for me when I saw it on day one in the theater.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I can't imagine waiting that long.
I don't know. There was
at Eau Claire.
So much talking about it that I just kind of... My interest waned because everybody kept talking about it. Hype is something that turns me off of things.
And I was the same way, especially when because it actually took me 2 tries to watch this. I started to watch it, and I really did not like the characters. The first time I watched it, I made it about half an hour, and I'm like, I just can't stand these guys.
They killed my favorite one in like halfway through.
And they were
Nosferatu one.
I found them a little annoying, but then on the second watch, I found I sort of got into the characters and like, okay, I could see the charm of the movie.
I mean, some are meant to be annoying.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Right. But I don't handle that well.
Well, it's supposed to be like one of those. We're making a documentary, and you're always going to have those annoying people that are in it. It's just what's happening.
There's so many good bits. Yeah, so many good bits I've actually seen copied by other vampire comedies since, like the whole thing with him like not being able to look into a mirror to see what they look like, so they drop bad pictures of each other to kind of give it, and like they don't come across at all. I've seen that a couple times since What We Do in the Shadows.
Well, Therapy for a Vampire, that was the thing. She couldn't see her reflection. She's like, do I still look beautiful? So he hires the artist to paint her picture because she can't.
Okay, moving on to 21. I texted Sam a picture, just one little picture from the opening cast credits. Do you remember?
I don't.
Okay, I texted you a picture, and then it says, and Daniel Baldwin.
Ah, yeah.
And then what did you text me back?
Oh, shit.
we know what that means.
And I'm like, Oh boy! All right.
It's
Yeah, now I remember. Yes,
It's like a little notification where it's like going, and Daniel Baldwin, do you want to turn back?
Yeah.
Do you want to turn back now?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh boy, what have I done?
This is
What
like
have
the
I done?
abandon all hope ye who enter here.
But I stuck with it, and I really wish this had been more of a horror comedy because it could have been quite good. Written and directed by Todd E. Freeman.
Well, what movie was it?
Cell Count from 2012. I guess they're working on a sequel right now. I think he was trying to make like a Cronenberg type of body horror movie. What it is, this guy has come up with a cure for cancer and other diseases. Cure's kind of horrific as well. So he's kind of got this testing facility to put these people through the cure, and what he's doing is injecting this symbiotic type of insect. But once it's eaten the disease, it's still growing, and they need to get it out. And it does all sorts of weird things. But the problem is, then the rules go out the window. Well, what the fuck does it do when it goes past? Other people going insane, they die. At one point, this guy vomits his asshole out his face, and then it wraps around his face. I don't know. That was interesting, and then they did nothing fucking with it. It was just like, okay,
Does he at
so
least
ass face.
test people in a prison, and then it's cell count?
Yeah, and it was. The test facility was in a prison.
Oh, good. Because then it's a double pun.
Yeah, because, it wasn't on the nose enough, yeah.
Well, ultimately, what you're telling me is what it should have been, like when we talked about Annihilation last week, it should have been that one scene in Annihilation where he cuts open that guy's abdomen.
Decent idea of, like, science run amok, the mad scientist type of story, badly acted, badly directed. There were times I was just shouting at my TV. I haven't been through film school and done some of my own projects. I've never made a feature, but... yeah, there were choices that I was just like, ah.
Yeah, why are you doing this?
Yes. So, definitely a low point. This was easily the worst one for me.
To be fair, we've just established that you were warned at the beginning.
I did. When Daniel Baldwin is the best thing in the movie.
When he gets an and.
Yeah, well, but at least with the and, I'm like, and he doesn't turn up until like the last 10, 15 minutes as he's getting people out like he's the big hero. I'm like, where the fuck were you the whole movie? And he was the best part. The best part.
He can act.
Yeah, but...
what you can't hear the ellipsis points after that?
Yes. Cell count. Trauma is you. Number 22. I'd never seen it before. We did a whole episode about it. C.H.U.D, go listen to it. So I will move on to number 23. Best one for the week by far, and in contention for best one of the month.
Ooh.
And this is Spring from writer-director Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. They are not in this movie like they are in The Endless. But this is a beautiful romantic horror movie. Again, the Lovecraftian overtones are in this movie as well. It's about a young man whose life is spiraled out of control and just runs and flees to Italy because he's done a couple of things that are going to get him in trouble. Fighting some dude in a bar. So he just goes on a vacation, gets the fuck out of Dodge, and he sparks up a romance with a young woman, which is Nadia Hilker in this movie, and Lou Taylor from Evil Dead's also in this as the lead. And man, this movie was good. At times I forgot it was a horror movie until you kind of get there. And basically it's about this woman who's immortal. And she's every 20 years she has to reboot her immortality cycle. She's basically reborn as something else. And her cell structure kind of runs amok. And she uses the stem cells from being impregnated to regenerate herself. And as her body's kind of going through the end of this stage, it sometimes transforms into primordial creatures.
Ooh.
It's really interesting. Love this movie. And I got to the end of this, I'm like, I don't like romantic comedies, but I do really like romantic horror movies.
There's a lot of good ones, shockingly.
Yeah, I won't spoil the ending for it, but do yourself a favor and watch this movie. This is really, really good, and I'm kind of hoping that we'll see these guys do more. Again, they do a whole lot with very little.
They like to let your mind fill in a lot of stuff, and
they pick their
key.
moments to spend their money on the big special effects moments.
Yeah, I'm a little choked because I read about the Endless in spring, like right near the end of the month, and I'm like, oh shit, I wish I'd read about these because they sound phenomenal.
I think
Spring's been on my list for over a year.
Yeah,
I think I've had Spring in my DVD shelf for a couple of years, and it's still unopened. And it was on my list this year. Didn't get to watching it.
So good.
Spring, Spring's been on my list a couple of years, but like every time I like kind of go to watch, I'm like going, ooh, am I in the mood for this? Because like I feel I do want to really appreciate it. But when you're talking about the movie, sorry, there's one thing that I kept thinking about. Like, how awesome is your life if to like escape and get out of town, you just flit off to Italy? Like,
Yeah.
you're pretty blessed if that's your life.
Well, he doesn't go straight to Italy. He hooks up with some backpackers, and then they go on to Italy.
Yeah.
There's some fun moments with these guys, and then they're like, "Hey, we're going off to Amsterdam. You coming?" No.
And
then they're gone.
Because
But still,
they
pretty
go off,
good.
and then the movie Hostel happens.
I think those two went off.
Oh yeah,
to
that's
Hostel.
how it splits.
Yeah,
Because I kept thinking something was bad was going on with those guys, and we never see them again. But who knows with Moorhead?
like
and-
they're
Same
the
universe.
backpackers from the beginning of Hostel.
Yeah, well, when we talked about
There you
last
go.
week with the Endless, when Benson and Moorhead had tied some stuff from Resolution into that movie, who knows? Who knows with these guys? Like, maybe there is a
Maybe they're
movie.
building a universe,
Yeah.
but it's so subtle we haven't seen it yet. There aren't enough
Yeah.
movies to really get there.
But having seen that, and we talked about the Endless, and that'll be on next week's list for me.
Well-
But I can't wait for more from these guys.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Well, when you're thinking
First
about
being so young.
and it's like she turns into these primordial things. Like when you think of the Endless, there's a portion of it where you're not sure. So yeah, I'm thinking there is something with this universe.
Okay. That was
Great.
number 23.
That's
And
great.
number 24 for the week. The last one for the week is Hellmouth from 2014, a Canadian movie by director John Geddes and written by Tony Burgess, who wrote Pontypool, starring
Yay.
Stephen McHattie. And that was all I needed to know going into this. This is a wild-looking movie. It has a very 50s throwback look to it. They've done it kind of Sin City style, above in front of green screens and kind of painting their worlds. It's very surreal and weird. I'd watch a trailer. I'm like, oh, this is enticing. And then I went to Amazon to watch it. It's another Amazon horror story.
Oh no.
So I'm like, starting it. I'm like, it sounds a little hollow, but like the background sounds are there, the sound effects, the Foley, it's all there. And then I get to the moment and where people are speaking and nothing's coming out of their mouths. There's mouths moving.
yeah.
I'm like, maybe it's supposed to be this way. I don't know. Like, this is because it
You
is
don't know.
weird looking. And I'm like, no, went back to the trailer. I'm like, no, there's dialogue in the trailer. And then I went back to the Amazon. Nope, nothing's coming out. I'm like, what the fuck? So I wound up having to go to YouTube, and they had the whole movie there. I'm sure it wasn't legal, but I found
Wow.
it. I'm like, damn you, Amazon, I pay for you.
Yeah.
So I wound up watching the movie on YouTube, and yes, there is dialogue to this movie, so go
Yeah,
fix it.
it seems
Amazon.
that there's even other movies that I've watched on Amazon Prime where the dialogue is very quiet.
Yeah, I find they're a little sloppy with the stuff that isn't theirs.
Yeah.
But this movie's, I don't know if I liked it or not. It doesn't make a lot of sense. A gravedigger is drawn into hell to save the soul of a beautiful woman he just met. I don't know about you, but I'm not willing to go to the ends of hell to do it. But there's some overtones with the character being sick and in this journey is kind of
Wow.
healed through his dying. He wants to retire, and he's been sent to do this last grave digger job, and it's kind of weird. Like, the whole thing's a bit surreal, and I'm still not sure how I feel about the whole thing. It's kind of sits on the shelf with Mandy somewhere. Like, it's just so odd.
It was fun to watch, but you're still not sure how you feel about it.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was the last one for the week, and it was a strange one, but I'm always happy to see Stephen McHattie in anything. So I'm glad I got to see this.
Well,
and, decent pairing. Like, there's neat ideas in this movie. I'm just not sure if I got it.
See, when you're talking about like Steve McCaddy, like he's so watchable in anything,
Yeah.
and then you're talking about like a gravedigger. I'm like going, oh my god! So like, is this like a gravedigger Shakespearean thing, bringing somebody up from the dead, and then Hamlet gets all affected? That would be awesome.
There's an Italian one that Sam and I watched years ago.
Cemetery Man?
Cemetery Man. It
Yeah.
reminds
Yes.
me a lot of Cemetery Man.
We saw that at
Yeah, and which is no less weird. So
It's so wonderfully weird.
Yeah.
I almost watched that just as a filler at one point. I'm looking to watch it, and I'm like, Cemetery Man. I remember loving that. So.
yeah, and I really feel like this is like the Canadian version of that in a lot of ways. It's Cemetery Man, so pretty cool. All right, Jeff, on to you.
Ooh. So you know what? My 17 starts off with a movie that I was actually not expecting to really like, but I really did. It was Blumhouse's 2018, this year, their movie Unfriended, Dark Web.
okay.
And, I never watched the first Unfriended, but Amelia came home with the Blu-ray copy of Dark Web that Amelia borrowed from work, and we were like, let's check it out. It's not related to the first Unfriended. I kind of always avoided that one because it seemed like a bit of a gimmicky way to do found footage, and it seemed like it was just retreading the ground that was already well traveled by I Know What You Did Last Summer. But with Unfriended Dark Web, the kind of premise is it's a found footage movie that takes place entirely. It's like a screen grab from a guy's computer, and it's like he's found this computer. It's been sitting in a lost and found box for a few months at this internet cafe, and he's like, well, this looks like a good computer. I'm just going to take it. But then there's all of this stuff on it.
Tor browser,
Yeah.
dark web.
Yeah, dark web stuff. The guy who used to own the computer is a person who basically finds people and then like takes video of them, and then people bid on
This
on
is
them
the
getting
infamous
kidnapped.
Red Room
It's like
stuff?
a Red Room type thing, and this
Right.
guy basically gets the people for the Red Rooms. So that then they find out that there's all these missing people, but then the guy who had their computer initially, because it was booted up, he's like, oh, well, I know where you are. Nobody leave your computer screens, otherwise, whatever. But it was entertaining. It was really well executed. One thing I liked a lot is the setup for all of them still being on their computer for the whole time. It was well thought out and it made sense. It was pretty suspenseful. Yeah, and all in all, it was pretty short. It was like a really entertaining and surprisingly satisfying found footage movie. Yeah.
Sounds like it plays off those dark web or urban legends
quite a
that
bit.
are propagating on YouTube and stuff. So
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. It definitely wasn't the best of the month, but I was surprisingly, and it was. I enjoyed it. It was surprisingly enjoyable.
I imagine it's a fairly cheap film to make as well.
Oh, very cheap.
That's how Blumhouse got so big, was having successful but cheaply made movies.
Absolutely.
So now they're able to spend a lot more money on their movies. but-
legitimately, you could make Unfriended. I don't know what the budget is, but you could make it for like thousands of dollars. Like,
Oh yeah, you think
could
about
not-
high def webcams, like a few $100 each,
Yeah,
right? So
you
Right.
can make like. There's actually a movie I watched a few years ago, kind of reminded me of, called The Den, which was a similar concept. But yeah, if you are able to do it properly, you can make this for very cheaply, and then they immediately make their investment back. Everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Maybe Unfriended is the Purge. I don't know how much more you can.
I think it's the new.
I don't know how much more you can do with this concept.
I
but-
think it's the new Paranormal Activity, where
Yeah.
the concept is what's driving it, not so much what the execution is each time.
The fact that they didn't bring back characters, it sounds like it's more of an anthology series.
yeah.
Well, I think
So
they
it'll
all
be something
die in the
different.
other one.
Which makes it a lot, because it's more legs, I would think. Because
much.
Yeah.
That was the thing about Paranormal Activity, is they were struggling to tie it all together. By the third one, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you're stretching now, folks, and it just deteriorated from there, right?
The only things I found really laughable is there's a lot of bits where I was like, that's not how the dark web works. But most people don't know that. So.
No, and that's probably for the best. Most people shouldn't know what
Yeah.
the dark
No.
web does.
My number 18 was a movie that's been on my list for quite a long time. I'm really happy I finally watched it. Despite it being a full moon movie, it was quite good, and that was 1995's Castle Freak, starring Jeffrey Combs, directed by Stuart Gordon, also starring Barbara Crampton. It's loosely based off of, I stress, very loosely based off of H.P. Lovecraft's The Outsider. So much so that I don't even think it gets a mention, but I know that that's the inspiration for it. So you could say it's the third in Stuart Gordon, Jeffrey Combs, and Barbara Crampton's Lovecraftian type trilogy with Reanimator, From Beyond, and then Castle Freak. It was good. Jeffrey Combs was entertaining as always. It was exactly what I was expecting.
Yeah, I was. I think this was during my video store days, and I'd seen it. Most full moon releases I watched as soon as they came out, or I probably had a screener of it at one point on VHS, and I actually had a fairly large screener collection of full moon stuff. Cause
yes, you did. Yeah.
I'm not sure whether that went. I think my brother got all those, but
which isn't fair considering that
it's fine.
But we got them, and you ended up with all of them because you were a far bigger fan of the Full Moon House stuff than I was. But
yeah. But yeah, we had quite a collection of the Full Moon stuff, and I remember liking Castle Freak, but it wasn't sitting as high up there with the Puppet Masters and the Trancers. And,
and even especially compared to From Beyond and Reanimator, like their budgets were much larger. But Castle Freak was enjoyable.
Yeah, I dug it.
Yeah, it was good. Number 19 was a movie that I enjoyed quite a bit. I believe it was on Xavier's list last week. It's from 2014, Zombievers. And Zombievers was hilarious.
I almost watched that this year.
Oh, yeah. Basically, it's exactly what you're expecting, and it delivers on its premise very, very well. It doesn't really aspire to be anything more than a movie where sexy teenagers get killed by zombie beavers, but that's okay. It was very entertaining.
There's something to be said for truth in advertising.
Yeah. I mean, one of the best parts is...
If you're called Zombievers, don't overstretch.
Most of the zombie beavers are just, like, puppets.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the best parts. There's actually several parts where you can see people's arms in the puppets.
There's a campness to some of that stuff, which is you know what? Frickin' just go for it.
Then they go for a bit where when you get bitten by the zombie beavers, you kind of turn into... like a zombie, but it's also a beaver hybrid. So there's a bit where there's a person where they've turned into a human beaver hybrid, but also a zombie and stuff like that. And it's good. It's short. Watch it if you like horror comedies. Some of it's a bit off color, but it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Have you listened to this podcast? Off color's kind of our bailiwick.
Yeah.
Yep. Ooh, number 20 was an interesting movie that I thought was just okay, but it has a little bit of an interesting history. It's George Romero's Season of the Witch, originally filmed as Jack's Wife, and then it was cut down and released as Hungry Wives. Mm-hmm. Now, the story with this movie is George Romero wanted to make like a feminist movie about witchcraft, and he made a movie that was like 140 minutes long. So, like a very substantial movie. Mm-hmm. I believe that would have been the longest movie of his career at that point. But then when it was done, the studio didn't really see much merit in it, and then decided to cut it down, I think, to 80 minutes, and then try to bill it as like a softcore pornography movie. And it did not do well at all. I mean, mostly because there's not any sex in it.
Right.
So it kind of got screwed right out the door, and then it wasn't re-released later until after the success of Dawn of the Dead, and then they kind of cashed in on it and then re-released it with slightly longer. I believe the longest known version is 104 minutes long, and there is a VHS release of it that cropped up, and no one knows where the cut came from, but it's the longest known version to date. So I thought there was a lot of good in it. I know that George Romero said it was the one movie he wanted to remake out of all of his movies in his career. The highlight of the movie is there's the main character, there's a montage of her going off and buying stuff to do witchcraft, and then her experimenting with different witchcraft rituals and spells, and it's all set to Season of the Witch, and and I thought the montage was actually really entertaining.
Nice.
And it has lots of good moments. However, I think I know that probably if it was the version George Romero wanted to release, it would be really good.
Yeah,
because it's been very rare I've seen a George Romero movie that wasn't really, really good. And I feel like this has more to do with the studio than anything with that. So maybe it could be prime for a remake.
Ooh. I like that idea.
I'll think about it. Don't force things on me.
Now, number 21, I think, had I not watched a movie that'll be on my list for next week, it would have been probably my favorite of the month. It was 1971's Simon, King of the Witches. Simon, King of the Witches is a really interesting movie. I wouldn't even necessarily say it's very much of a horror movie, but it's basically about a guy who I found out was one of the inspirations for Constantine, or Constantine, however you want to say it. It's basically about a guy who's a wizard, or a witch, a male witch, who lives in the sewers. And he's like this intense guy who goes around and trying to do magic rituals and other things, and he's just kind of following his own path, and he kind of gets caught up in stuff that happens, as he lives his life. He meets somebody who's a part of high society, and then he's kind of like a novelty to have around, but he scares people because he's really intense. And the whole movie is just about him trying to do a ritual where he turns himself into a god. One thing that was actually really... So the person who wrote it was heavily into the occult. And
yeah, this definitely sounds like an Alan Moore inspiration type of movie.
Yeah. The person who wrote it did their research. Like, pretty much everything that he does in the movie stems from, like, real-life practices and rituals that other people who are into the occult kind of practice. It's not even a specific... It's not like Aleister Crowley thelemic type stuff. It's like a hodgepodge, which is kind of cool. There's even... And it's not Wiccan either, because there's a scene where he walks into the middle of, like, a Wiccan ceremony, and then he's just kind of making fun of it the whole time, and then he leaves. He's just being a real asshole. But, the character, the actor was really, really good. All the characters were good. This movie has lots of really good camp. It was a really enjoyable movie. Like, just a really perfect snapshot of late 60s, early 70s occultism in general. And the main character's kind of an enjoyable asshole who, as I said, kind of inspired some similar type characters later on.
My love for Constantine makes me want to watch that movie.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I kind of want to watch it.
I haven't read it yet, but it's very high on my list. Apparently, there's a lot of scenes from this movie that Grant Morrison reused in The Invisibles.
I've seen as I've read The Invisibles 3 or 4 times. Mm-hmm. I'm now going to definitely have to watch this movie.
Yeah, it was really entertaining. It definitely has a lot of camp, but it's great. I really enjoyed it. My number 22, you've covered on the podcast before, Transylvania 6-5000.
Yeah, we got a whole episode about that one.
And the theme song was really good.
Transylvania 6.
Yeah.
5,000.
That's pretty much how we thought about it too.
Yep. I was like, oh, sweet. This movie, it cannot fail. And you know what? It was only okay.
As a kid, when I was a little kid, I liked it.
That was his highest achievement was okay.
Yes.
When I was a little kid, I liked it.
There's lots of moments that were fun.
It's mostly performances in that movie. I mean, Jeff Goldblum, as always, is truly entertaining.
Like Gina Davis was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Michael Richards was fun.
Yeah. Ed Begley was Ed Begley.
And if you want to know how we remade that, go check it out. Mm-hmm. Go check it out in our library. It's there.
Yeah.
Now, my 23rd movie is a movie that's also been on my list for quite a long time. It was 1968's Witchfinder General, a.k.a. Conqueror Worm, starring Vincent Price. It is considered by many people to be part of an unholy trilogy of folk horror, along with The Wicker Man and Blood on Satan's Claw, of which I adore the other two, so I really had to watch Witchfinder General. Vincent Price considered when he was alive Witchfinder General to be his best performance out of any movie.
Ooh.
And one of his favorite movies that he acted in. And it was really good. It was it doesn't have anything to do with Edgar Allan Poe, but that's part of the time where Vincent Price was known for doing Poe movies. Mm-hmm. So he would be in other movies that they would give Poe titles so they would sell more. But it's loosely based off of a real life person who, during the European witch trials, was responsible for a third of all of the deaths over only a 2-year period. Mm-hmm. He had just appointed himself the Witchfinder General and then went around and executed people for witchcraft. So Vincent Price plays this character. Yeah, it was good. It was really good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's a bit of a hard watch. I would actually say that for a movie that came out in 1968, it is shockingly gory. Like, some of the gore and some of the violence in the movie are actually quite uncomfortable, which is especially surprising because it's a movie that came out in the late 60s.
Yeah, and if you can feel like that now watching a movie, that's saying something.
Yeah, it's
I can imagine what audiences felt about it then.
Yeah, it was very controversial, and actually, some fun facts that
I guess wasn't Herschel Gordon starting to do his thing by then? Like some of the nasties,
maybe a little bit. I think probably what feeds a lot into it feeling worse is that it's all very serious, and it's all under the pretense that they're doing this to innocent people, and just like people who are just getting tortured for witchcraft, but they're innocent, and so you're just actually a lot of people really, really wrote off the movie because a lot of people found it was unnecessarily sadistic.
But you look back on stuff that they were actually doing to people, quite frankly, they probably lightened it up a lot.
Yeah.
If we're going to be honest.
And then the guy who directed it actually died a year later at the age of 24 of a drug overdose.
Oh my God.
So,
wow.
Yeah, so I'd say it's definitely worth watching. And this will tie into a movie that I'll talk about for my next week. But the Witchfinder General kind of spawned a subgenre of popular witch torture exploitation semi-historic movies in Germany specifically. Like the Germans were really into movies about torturing innocent people for witchcraft for a couple of years. Surprisingly. Yeah, it's odd.
Yeah.
An odd thing for people to just really, really latch onto.
Well, one of our previous discussions about another movie, we discussed like the walling up of children into walls, and they did that in churches in Germany. So they were into some weird shit.
And then I do a 24, correct?
Yep, 24.
Perfect. My 24th movie was really good. Came out this year. It was a Shudder exclusive, Canadian-American co-production. Summer of 84.
Nice.
Yeah, Summer of 84. I've definitely seen this plot in movies before. It's about a kid who thinks that his neighbor is a serial killer. People start going missing, and then he's going along with his friends, and they're trying to prove that his neighbor is a serial killer. So from that aspect, it's very similar to a lot of movies that came out before, but what really sold the whole movie was it has a really slick direction, has a really good synth score. It's a movie that's definitely trying to cash in a little bit on the whole like resurgence of kids on bikes,
Stranger Things.
From Stranger Things and It and stuff, but they do capture it pretty well. All the kid actors are really good, and yeah, it has a really good atmosphere, and they capture the time period really well. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, which is saying a lot, considering if you're going to basically retread the same ground a lot of movies have before, but you can still be really good in your own right. I definitely think that's
Yeah, I thought about watching it, and I'm like, this just sounds like a bazillion things I've seen already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing is it's not a billion things you've seen already, but it does it really well.
And everybody I've talked to who's seen it said it was very, very enjoyable.
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to give it another look at seeing.
Yeah, it was good. I recommend it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd say probably my favorite for the week, if not for Simon King of the Witches, which basically really just slots into a really specific category of movies that I like. That was probably my favorite of the week. But at the same time, Witchfinder General and Summer of 84, they were also very, very strong contenders for the month. Probably the worst of the week was Transylvania 65000, but that surprises nobody.
Nobody.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we will run a trailer here, and we'll be back with the final week of 31 Days of Horror.
Testing 1, 2, 3. We're on.
We're here to investigate a patient that killed 3 innocent teenagers on a Halloween in 1978. He was shot by his own psychiatrist and taken into custody that night, and has spent the last 40 years in captivity. Hello, Michael. I have something you might like to see.
Everyone in my family turns into a nutcase this time of year. Yeah, I mean, your grandmother is Laurie Strode. She was almost murdered.
Wasn't it her brother who murdered all those babysitters?
No, it was not her brother. That's something that people made up.
Do you know that I pray every night that he would escape?
What the hell did you do that for?
So I can kill him.
Dad, look out!
The bus crashed.
Mom, what bus crash?
Michael escaped.
Excuse me, somebody's in here.
Hello?
He's waited for this night. He's waited for me. I've waited for him.
Get out! Go on! Get inside!
You don't believe in the boogeyman?
He's here!
You should.
Can you close the closet door?
Okay, welcome back. Now it's the second half and the final week of 31 Days of Horror. Almost sad to get to it, but before we get to that, we always like to do a listener list, and this one's a special one. This is Justin, one of the hosts of Loosely Based on Movies.
Who gave us that great song for the C.H.U.D episode.
Yes.
That's right. So we're giving them a shout out, and Justin also did 31 Days of Horror. So I'm going to read his list here real quick. Number 1, Life After Beth.
Nice.
Great
Excellent.
movie.
Number 2, Little Evil.
Nice.
Number 3, Murder Party.
Nice.
3 horror comedies in a row. Number 4, Annabelle Creation.
Also a great movie.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even notice here. He does have pretty much one-word reviews. Life After Beth was okay. Little Evil was okay. Murder Party, bad.
Disagree with him on that one. I love Murder Party.
I'll get there. Annabelle Creation, good. Number 5, Gerald's Game, okay.
What? You know, loosely based on movies, more like loosely based on bullshit.
We're gonna start
And a shot
little
across the
war.
bow.
And here it goes. That's why you're a guest. I can just throw you overboard. But I don't know. Maybe there's something there. A little war is coming. I don't know. Number 6, Cult of Chucky. Okay. Yeah, we might have some problems here, Justin. Number 7, The Ritual. Okay. Moving on. I'm getting angry with you, Justin.
Those of you listening at home, we saw the face, and yeah.
Number 8, Holidays. Okay.
I'll agree with him on that one.
Yeah, okay. Truth or Dare, number 7 for 2017. Bad. I agree. Bride of Chucky was number 10. Okay. Number 11 was The Haunting of Molly Hartley. Okay. Number 12 was Children of the Corn. Okay. Number 13, Chopping Mall. Bad, but good. It's a good bad movie. All right, I can dig that.
It's trashy fun.
I almost watched it myself, but I didn't. It didn't make the list. Number 14, Tales from the Hood 2. Okay. Number 15, Creep. You know, I'm going to have to watch it because everybody... I kept skipping that movie thinking I'd seen it, and there's another UK movie called Creep that happens in a subway station.
Yeah, it's a completely different movie.
And I kept avoiding it thinking it was that movie, and I'm like, why is there a sequel? And then I kept hearing people describe Creep, and I'm like, that's not the movie I saw at all.
I really like Creep and Creep 2.
I haven't seen Creep 2 yet, but that was the one last year when I told you, it stuck with me for a week. It really messed me up.
Well, Mark Duplass is good at making movies.
Yeah. Well, I said that was, I believe that's what his doctor, the midwife character did from Mindy Project in his off time.
Okay, let's continue off with this list
What did he think of Creep?
Creep, he said, okay. Number 16, Halloween. Bad. What the fuck were you expecting?
It's called Halloween.
Right? It's in the title.
I saw
if you
that,
weren't expecting bad, then you're just a dumbass.
I just went hell no.
Yeah.
As much as I love Danny Trejo, I'm not going to watch
It's
it.
an Daniel Baldwin.
Yeah. It's one of those scenarios. When your lead actor is Danny Trejo, that should be a warning sign. I love Trejo, but he should not be a lead.
Unless the Machete movies.
Unless it's Machete.
Yeah, he just needs the right project.
There's always an exception to the rule. Number 17, Seven in Heaven. Bad.
I would disagree with him on that one.
I knew you would.
Yeah.
Number 18, Creep 2. Okay. Number 19, Jigsaw. Bad. Anybody?
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it yet myself. Number 20, Sleepaway Camp. Okay. Last Shot was great.
You know,
everybody knows that last shot, right?
What would it be to just live your life on such a level where everything is just only okay? I would hate to be this person.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to do one-word reviews, I guess...
Well, I guess it's sort of...
if anything, I'd just tell Justin, get a thesaurus.
Although a lot of people do blame or accuse me of liking everything, but I would rather like
I feel like mediocre is more of a descriptive word than okay.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you feel about okay.
Mediocre, unsatisfying, missed potential.
Yeah.
There's so much more there.
I know. I don't know. But I'm glad you liked the last shot of Sleepaway Camp. Number 21, Tales from the Crypt. I'm not sure which one he watched. I'm guessing the original Tales from the Crypt.
I'm hoping.
Okay, because the other ones have subtitles. Number 22, Pumpkinhead. Okay, we covered Pumpkinhead in an entire episode. Remade it. Number 23, The Monkey's Paw from 2013. Is this the same one you watched?
Yes, it is.
Were you guys on the same episode?
No.
Oh, he
No.
just watched it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Justin watched it after listening to the episode or not, but
Yeah, he thought it was bad.
depending on what you want out of it, it's an okay movie. It's not a great movie, but I wouldn't say it's bad either.
Okay, number 24, Sleepaway Camp 2. It's funny how he thought it was okay, and but kept on going anyway.
What do you think of
He
2?
he actually thought it was good.
Wow.
All right.
You know, that might be the first movie I've agreed with.
Okay. Number 25, Sleepaway Camp 3. Yeah, okay. Number 26, Flight 666. Bad. What? No, sorry. I misspoke. Bad. He actually spells it with a lot of A's. So
Okay.
there you go. Number 27, Dolls. Bad. Number 28, Howling 2. Bad.
Which Halloween 2?
Howling 2.
Oh, Howling 2.
The Howling 2. My bad. My bad. He thought it was bad, but I don't think it's bad. I like Howling 2.
Is that Your Sister's a Werewolf? With Christopher Lee?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
It's okay.
It's good bad.
Yeah, it's 80s bad. It's 80s
You have
fun.
to know what you're getting into.
Yeah. 29, American Poltergeist, bad. Number 30, Fright Night, 1985. I can't believe another person this year hadn't seen it. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 31, The Night of the Comet. Okay.
Oh, see, that's a good one. I like
Yeah.
that one.
Thank you for your list, Justin.
Yeah, and I suspect that it's okay is not necessarily a bad thing for horror movies, because most horror movies are at best okay.
Yeah.
There's very few that are excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, usually
unless you're seeking them out, and
if I'm like on IMDb and I see above 5, maybe hitting a 6.5, fuck, that's probably
It's gonna
pretty
be
good.
great.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
gonna be
just
awesome.
with horror movies, I feel like horror movies are similar to romantic comedies, where they're pretty inexpensive to make, and there's just a huge dearth of really terrible, super low budget. Like for romantic comedies, there's 1,000 Hallmark movies that are just the worst.
And you know, when I'm interested in
they're
something,
horrible.
the first
If it
thing I
says
do,
Hallmark, get out.
especially for 31 Days of Horror, the first thing I do is I'll look at the IMDb and maybe a trailer, and if it doesn't break 4, I'm not even looking at it, because I'm not gonna waste my time on shit.
Sometimes I do, because sometimes I like to get those little nuggets of ones where they might have a brilliant little seed of an idea that we could possibly do as a remake, so I might subject myself to that.
Well, yeah, if it's an older one, yeah.
Yeah, there's, but when you're talking about, actually this listener reminded me of something, when you're talking about Summer of 84, where he thinks his next door neighbor is killing people, like Fright Night, that's also that kind of trope where you have, but
he's right.
He's right, yeah, you have 40,
It's
but
like Fright Night is like Rear Window with vampires.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and then
Absolutely.
like that's the whole thing. But except you have like 40-year-old teenagers
Yeah.
doing that.
Okay, we got to move on. Thank you again, Loosely Based on Movies. Go check out their podcasts. They're available everywhere. So just go search them out on your app devices and subscribe to Loosely Based on Movies. And I'm sure you'll get better than okay.
I know you'll
Okay.
get better than okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Demons aren't real. They're parables, metaphors.
Then what the fuck is that?
All right, Sam, let's start our final week.
Okay, so I'm going to rip through these fairly quickly. Some of these I know at least one person has seen. So my movie 25 was Goodnight Mommy from 2014. It's an Austrian film directed by Severin Fiala and Veronica Franz. So good. So it was such a visually stunning movie. My only complaint about the whole movie actually was the fact that they took off her face mask. Because it made the movie that really disturbing, having her faceless all the way up to the point where they did take it off. And it was important because of those final scenes, you needed to be able to see her face.
It's one of those things where it kind of balances on this precarious edge of selling you a movie and then having a big twist where it's not. Even though a lot of people thought that the twist was predictable.
It was, but it was so well done that it didn't matter
in the movie. Yeah,
the story was so well told that little twist did not matter at all.
Yeah, I thought it was.
They gave you. I mean, they gave you clues. They wanted you to figure it out, right? I mean, there's a clue right at the very beginning of the movie where she's saying you need to stop talking to your brother. Right? If you're paying attention, it tells you what's happened. Right?
Yeah.
They don't tell you how it happened. I don't think they ever do tell you how it happened in the movie, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
But again, just a really great watch, and it made you uncomfortable because those kids were so good. They were just so disturbing to watch. And the way they interacted, and some of the way the shots, of the way they were shot, it created an atmosphere and just made you truly uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, you know, if there's anyone out there who hasn't seen the movie or a trailer or anything, I would say definitely go check out the movie. I would maybe avoid a trailer. The trailer is really good, but it kind of probably be better to just watch the movie and experience it as it unfolds.
That would be my recommendation as well. Is just go watch it.
Yeah.
So then I have a question, Sam. Would this really be one of my terrifying I'm Afraid of Children movies?
Oh, fucking hell yes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, good to know.
Because these kids are... Yeah, they're creepy kids.
Yeah, they're good.
Especially the third act. Holy shit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And interestingly enough, my 26th film has a similar twist, which I'm not going to ruin. But this movie is tied with The Forest of Lost Souls and The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears for my favorite movie this year. It's called Boys in the Trees. It's available on Netflix. It was from 2016. It was made in Australia. Directed and written by Nicholas Verso in his feature debut.
I'll definitely check it out.
And this movie, I can't stop thinking about it, can't stop talking about it. It's that well done. It's just barely in the horror genre. It's just this beautiful story about two teenage boys who are about to graduate high school, who were friends as children, but this event happened and they stopped being friends. And then there's this moment on Halloween, the year they graduate, and they decide to play this game that they used to play as kids one last time, where they live in this little they play this little fantasy game as they go home, and the game's not over till they get home. And so this whole story is this night of them sort of playing the game and reconnecting as friends, and there's apologies, and it's just this great story about two young men. But there's these little moments that happen that sort of give you these horror elements. There's this creepy Aboriginal man dressed all in white who pops up just randomly over the place, and there's this really great Dia de los Muertos scene where there's families mourning their dead, and there's this sort of supernatural stuff that happens in there. And of course there's the new friends of the popular boy who are also sort of tormenting them both throughout the whole movie. And it's just so beautifully shot, and the story's so well told that it just sticks with you. At the end of the movie, you're like, that was amazing. I was so entranced by it. It was one of those movies with this day and age. There's sort of as you're watching, sometimes you're doing other things. You're looking at your tablet, or you're talking to somebody, or you're not giving something your full attention. 5 minutes into this movie, I was giving it my full attention.
Awesome.
Cool.
And for a feature debut, this Nicholas Verso's going places.
Right.
Nice.
And there's a lot of good stuff that comes out of Australia.
Yeah,
there really is, and I mean, because it was Australian, that's one of the reasons I chose to watch it.
Usually, the stuff I see out of Australia is just batshit crazy.
And this is so subdued, and that's what I think part of the reason I liked it so much is it's a very subdued film, and it's very dialogue driven, and it's about relationships, and it's just it's stunning. But again, just barely into horror. It's just one of those great films that you should watch anytime.
Right.
Nice.
Number 27 was Revenge from 2017 from France, directed and written by Coralie Fergate. Great revenge flick. Not much more else to it. It
was a female written and directed kind of...
It's a very interesting take on the final girl kind of trope.
Yeah, but isn't it kind of like Last House on the Left?
Yes.
And...
Yeah, it takes all of those and they talk about it as a feminist film. And to a certain extent, I guess it is, but it's just that revenge flick where a young woman is raped, and then they think they murder her, and then she comes back and takes her revenge.
Sounds a lot like I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah, yeah. It's well done, and the way it's shot is spectacular. Like, it looks another one that looks really, really good. And the final act, it's horribly gory. Like, there is blood everywhere. But I can't say I found it to be a satisfying ending.
I've heard mixed reviews, but generally they're pretty positive.
Yeah, generally.
I mean, it's not a terrible movie by any means, but it was on a lot of the lists I was looking at, sort of horrors that you should see. But I see it. But
was it a case of just there wasn't anything new there?
There was nothing new there.
Yeah,
there was really nothing new there for me.
Yeah, and maybe it's just getting a little more attention because it was a female director that did this movie instead of a male one.
Yeah, and
it sounds like it's pretty much the same plot as I Spit on Your Grave and Last House on the Left.
It largely, I mean, it's got all the tropes. The remote area, it's got. I mean, like I said, I think the reason it's gained so much popularity is because it's considered a feminist film.
Yeah,
because it empowers a female character, but it's been done before, and it's been done as well. Right? I think the reason people like it so much is because it does look really good.
Right,
and the acting is excellent.
It's actually one thing. Even aside from like rape revenge movies like Death Wish or Taken and stuff, like it's just a very really the whole revenge movie is really overdone. But I feel like whenever a lot of times they look very conventional as well. So if there's usually a revenge movie that looks really good and seems like that's usually what makes people talk about it. Yeah. Like Taken wasn't anything that crazy.
Well,
but
there's
it
one
looked
Sam
really
and
good.
I watched a couple years ago called Avenged or Savaged, aka Savaged. That's kind of that plot with a little bit of Crow thrown in.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, like, I mean, there's lots of revenge stuff. But I think when you talk about the revenge movies, sometimes you're talking about Death Wish and stuff. I don't think most of the time they're horror. A lot of revenge movies are just action movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and this one's it leads more that way. And to be honest with you, it doesn't feel as much horror-y as it does kind of an action.
If it wasn't for that bloody last act.
Although
really,
I'll pose a question to people. With a lot of revenge movies that are about, like, you know, like Liam Neeson or other men, it's usually like their families killed or something, so they go kill everyone. But with the women, most of the time, like, they have to get raped.
Well, even that.
Why not kill a woman's family for once?
Yeah.
Right? And there's one thing too where in a lot of those revenge movies it's like, okay, yeah, no, the man's wife or daughter or something gets raped and then he gets revenge. Like somehow that gets him up off his ass. And it's sort of like, why does that have to happen to her? Why doesn't he have something terrible happen to him and then he gets his revenge? Like why is that the go-to? That's what bothers me a lot about it. Like, or you know, like, or taking her child, doing that type of thing. I mean, it's not, that's not the only reason to get revenge, but it seems so easy. And sometimes when I watch those movies, it seems that the rape scene is shot too lovingly for my fucking taste.
And I will say that for this movie, the rape scene was very, very tasteful. I mean, as tasteful as a rape scene can get.
Well, it's filmed as titillating rather than horrifying, which is what it should be.
This was not at all titillating. It was not at all graphic.
I don't know if I've ever seen a rape revenge movie where I thought the rape was titillating.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when we did Halloween and they had that rape scene in there, it was shot a little too much like people were enjoying watching that.
Well, I don't know about titillating, but certainly a lot more graphic, nudity and so on. But yeah, this one, I mean, our lead character, you never see her nude. Never.
No.
Right? But you see a lot of male nudity, right? And that might be why they're sort of seeing it as a feminist film, because all the nudity is male nudity and there's no female nudity at all. But yeah, it still doesn't add much else new to the rape revenge story.
Right.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that maybe it's more action than horror, which is a nice take on it.
I would lean that way more with it, like I said, except for that third act, which is, and I mean, the violence is horrific. Like, it is into slasher style horror as far as the actual violence goes.
Right.
When they get to it.
Cool. What's next?
Number 28. I have not much to say about this movie. It was Eloise from 2017, directed by Robert Legato, starring Elijah Dushku and Chase Crawford. Eloise is not a person; it's a place. That's all I'm saying.
How many?
Is it good?
How many horror movies did you watch with Buffy cast members?
This year, one.
You've already mentioned two today.
Oh, Julie Benz. Sorry, yes, you're right. That's just the way it happened to work out. Usually it is...
And you usually watch one with that chick who played Drusilla.
Juliet Lando, yes. But yes, I couldn't find anything from her that I was willing to watch this time.
Okay.
But yes, no, I didn't know Elijah Dushku was in this one. Otherwise, I probably would have skipped it. And I wish I had, because, there's not much else to say about it. Eloise is a place, not a person. Interesting concept that just went nowhere.
What is the concept?
Chase Crawford, our lead, is looking for a deed to a property that he stands to inherit, but he has to go into this abandoned asylum to get this document for some reason.
It's kind of like, sounds a little bit like Session 9, which is a movie
That's what I was
think
just
a lot of
thinking
people really
about.
But
like,
Session
praise a
9
lot.
is really good.
Well, I was just gonna say, when I saw Session 9, I was like, "Oh, this is kind of crappy," and then I heard everyone say it was really good. So
yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah.
That is the exact reaction I expect from people watching Session 9. That is probably the most 50-50 movie I have ever witnessed.
I have tried to watch it multiple times. I've never finished it. Put it that way.
There were 4 when I was in Vancouver going through film school, and there were 4 of us watching it. 2 of us hated it. 2 of them hated it, and two of them liked it. I was one of the 2 who really loved the movie.
Session 9 is one of the weird ones where, like, depending on my mood, I'm like, this is amazing. And then other times I'm like, I watched it again and I was like, I would have done something a little bit different with it. Like, it's sort of one of those ones where I don't know.
I don't think it ties off as solidly as it could have, but
yeah. But the concept is sound.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I don't
this
need
one
to
not so
see
much.
it. I don't want to see a half-assed one.
This one-
Even when Sam was describing it, I was starting to nod off a bit.
Well, my enthusiasm was kind of underwhelming. I mean, they even bring in the
was
whole
making my sperm freeze.
Well, it is winter.
Yeah, they even bring in the whole our 2 lead characters were born in the asylum trope.
Weird. Right.
Yeah,
That's
they took the story nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. Number 29 actually wasn't bad. Not a great movie, but not bad. It was Here Alone from 2016. It's a really interesting take on the zombie apocalypse film. It was directed by Reed Blackhurst and written by David Ebelhoft. It's basically a woman who's been living by herself after a viral outbreak that turns people essentially into zombies. It never says zombies, but that's essentially what they are. So she's been living out in the woods on her own, surviving, and it's fun because it kind of, well, not fun, but it's interesting because they show her surviving in the woods, and it's a more of a survival film than a zombie film. But she's also lost touch with humanity because she's been away for so long, and she hasn't interacted with anybody because her husband and her child both got the virus, and her husband killed himself because he got it and he didn't want to deteriorate and become a threat to her, and then her infant child starts to show the signs, so she has to.
Oh.
Yeah, so horrific right there. And they tell that story throughout the movie. He doesn't give it to you all at the beginning. But then these 2 new people come into her life, and she starts to entertain the idea of maybe rejoining humanity as it is, even though the world is kind of taken over by these infected people. And there's some great stuff about how they survive and how they obtain food. Like, it explores that whole idea is how do you survive in a post-apocalyptic world when you can't get to supplies safely because of the zombies. How do you fend for yourself in a remote environment? And it was really interesting to watch that.
It's interesting that you could still find a zombie movie that is intriguing at this point.
I'm not a zombie movie fan to begin with, but it grabbed me and it engaged me all the way through.
Well, it's addressing one of the ideas that I've always wondered about with zombie movies, and I never really get to, is like, I mean, I am the first one, the Vincent Price one that we did, basically our first episode, where what happens when you're just alone, you're all alone.
Yeah, and it explores that to a certain extent. It really does, is how she's reluctant to interact with people and how she's not very good at it anymore. But yeah, I would say it's definitely worth a watch because the performances are excellent, and because it is a character study more than it is a zombie movie. It's still horrific, and oh, wait a minute, another downer ending.
Oh no.
I think maybe the last good zombie movie I saw was Maggie, and was a very emotional, character-driven movie. So
yeah, and I think
that kind of works.
And I think that's where horror kind of needs to start going more. Is get into your emotions rather than trying to shock you with visual stuff.
No,
While that's still
a
fun,
lot of people really hated it. It only comes at night, or It Comes at Night, which is a post-apocalyptic movie that came out in this past year. And me and my wife loved it, but most people in the theater audibly hated it afterwards. Like, people were standing up saying, that was the worst fucking movie I've ever seen. But it was, like, very heavy on the interpersonal relationships between people and the struggles for decisions they had to make, and not really heavy on
I think that comes
scares.
down to expectation.
True.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're expecting a monster, something terrible.
Yeah, I've gone to horror movies that I thought were spectacular, where the people I've gone with wanting something actiony and bloody, and you get a slow burn type of thing, and I'm like, know what you're getting into.
It's probably what a lot of people didn't like The Witch, which I think is amazing.
Oh, I mean, I with you there. I think it's amazing, and I never want to watch it again. Like it's fantastic. It's a one-time watch. It's a difficult watch, but it's worthwhile to do it once.
Well, and that's me with The Orphanage. That one got me so emotionally, like I was a wreck at the end of that one.
That one I'd watch again.
I would watch it again, but it's hard. I just know that I'm going to fall apart.
With The Witch, it's hard to escape. That movie plays a lot at our house.
Yeah. I'm going to move on because I got a couple left. Number 30 was Shudder from 2004 from Thailand. It's been remade 3 times.
I think I saw the remake.
With Joshua Jackson?
Yes.
Yes. It's a pretty decent remake, but having watched the original now, it's inferior.
I got to watch the original.
It's really, really well done.
Sounds like a prime
The
for
concept
a remake
is really good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the concept is wonderful.
I've seen the remake, and I don't think I've seen the original.
No, I hadn't either. This is one of those ones where my wife picked it, and I'm like, I think I've already seen this. And I'm like, oh, wait, this is a Thailand version. I guess I'll watch it, right? Yeah, because I know I haven't seen it. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. The performance, given the fact that it was subtitled and it was in Thai, the acting was excellent. The way it was shot was really interesting. The way the story was told was slightly different and very, very interesting. And the way they bring up the end twist was also really, really interesting. It was a lot of fun to watch it again and see it as it was intended.
That's cool. We'll have to do that.
And I've always liked the idea of like spirit photography as an idea that drives a film.
Yeah, and
it's a pretty cool idea.
It works really well. I think the thing that I liked about this one is it doesn't go out of its way to paint anybody in a particularly good light. Especially with horror movies, is you kind of have your good person, you have your asshole, you have these sort of different character archetypes that you see through horror movies, and none of them exist in this movie except for your spirit, right? But even your spirit isn't malevolent in the sense that it's out just to do harm. It's out because it's a kind of a revenge film, but it's not even revenge so much as it's the cost of your actions, right? It's not, and I really like that conceit.
That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
I mean, because when you talk about like the spirit not being either good or bad or like malevolent, I mean, you think about it. If that's the point, like when you die and your spirit's out there, that's who you are, and you are both things.
Yeah. So yeah, I would recommend watching the original. And then my last one is interesting. I didn't intend to end up here, but somebody watched what I was going to watch for my 31st movie.
Sorry.
Oops.
And I
know what that was.
Yeah, and I couldn't find my ultimate choice. So I'm like, oh wait, Tyler McIntyre. Patchwork. I haven't seen that. I covered last year. Yeah, from 2015. So I won't go on and on about it because Jay did go on and on about it last year.
I don't know. After my mediocre kind of review on that one, I was surprised you picked it.
Well, I just wanted something fun and light because I couldn't find the stuff I wanted to watch, and I'd watched a lot of heavy stuff all the way through this week.
That's true.
Right.
So you really went deep.
Yeah. So I wanted to watch something a little bit lighter as I was sitting there. I'm like, yeah, I'll just watch this because I like the idea. And it's over the top and it's low budget, but it was a blast. It was fun, right? It wasn't good.
Yeah.
So would you say that your 31 Days of Horror had a happy ending?
No,
it was.
No.
It was patchy at best.
It was exactly yes. Yeah, but yeah, it was.
Did it fall to pieces?
It did totally.
Deep dive on that one.
No, it's stitched together just fine, Jay.
Yay.
Because it's an homage to Pieces. Yeah.
No. But yeah, it was a fun take on the Frankenstein trope.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. It wasn't bad.
But it falls apart. It doesn't make sense in the third act. They all share the same brain, and the person who got them into the mess is part of the collective mind.
Yes.
Like, what? They should have known that. So,
yes.
That was a terrible reveal.
That irked me immensely. Yeah. I liked the idea. I thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah,
that it was deliberate, not accidental.
Yeah,
but yeah, it wasn't handled as well as it could have been. No.
Yeah, you can't undo your big reveal at the end like that.
No. So, best one of the week. I want you to save the best one for the month.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think we've already established that the best of the week was Boys in the Trees. My worst was Eloise.
This is my body. This is my blood. Happy are they who come to my supper.
All right, on to myself. Number 25 is a video game adaptation, which I didn't know going in, called It Came from the Desert from 2017, written and directed by Marco Macchialaccio. Sorry, I'm going to apologize right now because I know I butchered that. Also written by Tret Haga and Hank Woon Jr. This is a Canada, UK, Finland joint. That's why the names are so fucked up. Giant ant movie. I was hoping for like a 50s kind of style kind of movie. It's kind of there, but the characters are so fucking obnoxious that I've just like, the whole movie, I'm like, I couldn't wait for this thing to end. It's so bad. The effects are fine. It just looks like kind of a made for a network channel kind of thing.
Sci-fi
or something like that. So the ants look decent enough, but the characters were just so obnoxious. I just like, can please one of these ants just fucking chew these guys' heads off, please? Breathe inside them. I don't care. Just fuck.
Oh.
So bad. One of the worst of the month. I'm not sure yet if it is, but it's definitely the worst of the week by far. Not even going to contest it. Number 26. We've already talked about this last week. The Endless, written and directed by Justin Benson and director Aaron Moorhead. I had no idea going in that this was another one of their films at the time. It was not intentional, but certainly glad I did. The same writer-directors from Spring. They're also star in the movie, and I talked about it with you last week, so I'm not going to go into any kind of deep thing. Again, really like this movie.
Would recommend.
Go watch it. And another one that contributes to my month of cults.
yes, another. Yeah, you got a culty month going on.
There was a lot of cults. Definitely wasn't intentional, but that was the pattern that was forming.
It's funny. I don't think I mentioned this last week, but I did start watching this movie before 31 Days of Horror, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to stop this because I think like it might be a horror. I don't want to waste it, and then I never went back to it.
Yeah.
Oh no,
it was really good. So go watch it now. Yeah. You don't have to wait for next year.
No, I'm not going to do that to myself anymore.
Yeah.
Because there's all these great movies, and I'm not going to see that many horrors throughout the course of the year that I'm going to not have enough to get through next year.
Yeah, always people say, I can't believe you have any horrors left to watch. And I'm like,
There's so many.
There's so many. There's so many good horror movies.
Well, as I showed you,
so many bad ones.
Before the 31 Days of Horror, when we were talking about me being on these episodes, I was showing Jay at the time my lists of about 40 movies, and I think I maybe watched 2 or 3 of them.
Oh yeah, I had a prelim list that was like 60 deep. I think I may have watched 5 off of it. So there's just so many. Number 27, and I'm sure this is the one that pissed off Sam and was probably supposed to be his number 31, Wildling from 2018.
That would be the one.
Sorry, Sam. Written and directed by Fritz Bohm and also written by Florian Eder. Really enjoyed this movie. It's about a young girl held in isolation and captivity only to be freed and kind of learn about the world. And it's certainly an allegory for womanhood and stuff. It does go wonky in its third act where, there's this story about the wildling and this monster, and turns out the guy who's holding her captive, she's like one of this race. So it turns into a monster movie in its third act. There's a touching story in there, but it...
Little something like Mama?
Well, I haven't seen Mama, so I don't know.
Okay.
Which is sad.
I thought Mama was great.
It's in my collection. I just haven't watched it yet. And I wanted to watch it for this year, and I forgot about it. But I really did enjoy the movie. I'm not sure if the third act quite holds up to the rest of the movie, but it's good and very capably acted. I thought the talents in this movie was out of this world. Bel Powley, Liv Tyler, Brad Dourif. Great cast.
Nice.
Yeah, great cast. I give it a pretty good high rating. I'd give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's
nice.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
That would have been better than one Patchwork.
Yeah. Number 28, The Ritual. Watch this on Netflix. Directed by David Bruckner, who had a previous entry in VHS. Also written by Joe Barton and Adam Neville. It's about 4 friends hiking in Sweden being stalked by something in the woods. It's also a cult. Just happens. But it's a cool monster movie.
Yeah.
unlike our friend Justin on Loosely Based on Movies, I thought this was a little better than okay. I was quite enjoying this movie, and the camaraderie between the four actors. I think this is a good 4-person UK type of movie. I really like UK horror in general. I think this feels a lot like a slow burn Hammer film in a lot of ways.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, really dug it. Highly recommend it. Number 30, I was really wanting a decent horror comedy. So I went to Murder Party. Pretty short movie, written and directed by Jeremy Saulnier, who did the excellent Green Room. So go check
I did
that.
not know that when I watched this.
Oh.
That was kind of what sold me on it. Man, just literally he finds an invite to a Halloween party, and rather than sit at home, he goes to this party, kind of crashes the party, takes the invite, and turns out they're just hoping somebody will show up so they can murder him.
I love the concept.
It's a great concept.
And they're just
Murder
a bunch,
for art. Don't forget, it's murder for art.
Murder for art. Really neat concept. And this is one of those where I think Justin said it was bad. I thought it was okay. I don't think the humor quite lands as well as it should. There are times I was quite enjoying the movie, and other times I was like, get on with it. Okay. It was, it was okay. But it certainly wasn't the laugh out movie I was hunting for at the time.
No, it wasn't very funny. No.
Don't go in with huge expectations.
No.
And it's kind of enjoyable.
It's okay.
But conceptually, like if you're going to do kind of a low budget and like with this concept, this is kind of how you do it. It makes
There's
sense.
more bickering than them trying to kill him. He's constantly getting away while they're all bickering with him.
Yeah,
those were fun.
That happened one too many times. For me.
It did. It just happened one too many times. I think a lot of the dialogue just goes on too long to the point where I'm like, can somebody die already?
Yeah,
So-
there was some points in it too. There's one point there where he observes something happening and while they're all sitting around there, and he has the opportunity to say something and never does. Right, to manipulate the situation to his favor. He never actually does that. But my favorite part is the fact is even when he gets away, he's wearing that fucking cardboard costume.
I love that.
Yeah.
He never gives up on that costume.
And that's the time where sometimes that subtlety in the humor is really punches out. Yeah, it's like, okay, he's getting away, but this is really funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he always plays that really flat. He's never too panicked about it. He's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Well, when I first saw that movie, I thought the twist was like he is going to be somebody who's capable of killing people.
Yeah, he's
I
just this emotionless guy through most of the movie, but that's where the humor comes from a lot of the times, is just his non-reaction to things.
Yeah, because he doesn't seem at all like his reactions are so small. Even when he's like tied up to the chair, he's
kind
like
of inconvenienced.
Yeah,
I just wonder if he was like just so socially awkward and so socially incompetent.
And I think that's part of the commentary of the film.
Yeah.
So wasn't quite satisfied with this as my horror comedy option. So number 30 was Happy Death Day. Finally got to watch this movie, and I initially wasn't all that interested when it was out last year, and then I saw the ad for the sequel this year, and I'm like, fuck, this looks like a lot of fun. So made a point of adding it to the list this year, and this is directed by Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse director Christopher Landon, and both Sam and I have talked about this in previous iterations of the show. Also written by Scott Lobdell, the comic book writer Scott Lobdell,
Nice.
which is another reason I was attracted to the movie. That's 2 movies I've watched by comic book writers this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cults and comic book writers. That's what we're going with.
That's right. And Scott Lobdell kind of splits the comic book audience. I've always been a liker of Scott's work. So he puts a lot of mythology into what he writes, a lot of detail into fleshing out his world. And I think Jessica Roth is just so great in her performance here. We really do see her character grow in this kind of Groundhog's Day horror movie, where she's reliving her death over and over and over again to make this discovery so her day can continue. And based on the trailer, something happens down the road, and then she wakes up in the sequel back where this one started all over again. I'm like, oh, this poor girl. Really, really enjoyed this movie. This was the horror comedy I had been struggling to find most of the month, and lots of fun.
It's one of the best parts of that movie is like sort of there's a whole montage where they kind of go through a whole bunch of her previous deaths, and it's sort of like she gets along, she gets so far, and then she's like, ah, shit. Like, and then she just kind of, she's gonna die, but she's not that fussed about it.
Exactly. Number 31, I'm not going to tell you about just yet. This me and Trish share the 31 movie. So
That's three you share on the same day. You realize that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's true. That is true.
10, 22, and 31.
So I'm going to hold off on that when she talks about it so I can be part of that conversation. I think I could do my worst and best for the week fairly easily here. Worst, It Came from the Desert. Ugh. And man, the best. That's a toughie. It's I'm gonna have to say Wildling just edges out the Endless. Yeah, the Wildling. Definitely Wildling was the best for the week.
Jesus Christ!
Not quite. What did you see? The same as I. Appetite sated, desire indulged, a miniature of the world, and how it will succumb to us. You enjoyed the girl.
Yes.
Good. So did I. And that's all.
No, it's not the same. No, what you did, that was fucking evil, man.
Oh, how uncomfortable that word must feel on your lips. Evil, good. There is no good, Monroe. There is no evil. There is only flesh. The patterns to which we submitted. You will help me to...
Oh, no. No fucking way, man. No fucking way.
Oh, how touching. That is the gun you used to kill your parents. Oh, I understand. Their fortune was so tempting, their affection so conditional. What else could you do?
Fuck you.
Now, can we talk sensibly?
All right, Jeff, let's move on to your week.
All right, so for number 25, there is a movie that, spoiler alert, probably my favorite of the whole month. It was from 2014's Starry Eyes, directed by Kevin Kolsch and Dennis Widmeyer, also written by both of them.
Mhm.
Has anyone here seen Starry Eyes?
No.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, Starry Eyes was phenomenal. Basically, how this movie came about was, I believe it was Kevin Kolsch. He was the person who ran Chuck Palahniuk's website.
Okay.
Or Chuck Palahniuk's website, and he made a documentary about him. And then because people were a fan of his work through Chuck Palahniuk, sorry, I'm going to butcher this last name. This was a movie that was funded through Kickstarter, mostly by this author's fans. So it's a movie about a woman who just really wants to be a famous actress, and kind of the lengths that she's willing to go through. Like, it's a cult movie. There's a whole bunch of occult stuff that happens. It's body horror. There's a lot of moments that really made you feel sick watching.
Wow.
It's a really, really, really clever and interesting twist on a lot of Hollywood urban legends about actresses trying to make it in Hollywood. The acting is all really phenomenal. The special effects are really, really solid. The movie has really good atmosphere. It has a really good synth score. Probably one of the best horror movies I've seen in quite a while, actually. And I'm doubly excited because the two people who made this are going to be making the Pet Sematary remake.
Nice.
So I'm very excited for that. But yeah, Starry Eyes, I could not recommend highly enough. It was really good. And it's been on my list for a couple of years, so I'm glad I finally watched it.
Cool. I might have checked out.
Yeah, especially if you like body horror and cult stuff. It's good.
I might have to tap out on cults for now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I think I've had my fill.
Yeah, but no, it's very good. Oh boy, number 26 is one of the most gonzo movies I've watched in a while. 1979's The Visitor. Now, The Visitor is an Italian-American movie, Italian director, some Italian cast, mostly American cast. It is just a bonkers, wild ride of a movie. It is like if you took the 1970s and then smushed them together into a movie. I've read one person describe the movie as The Bad Seed, but if it was directed by Alejandro Jodorowsky, basically the brief synopsis is that millennia ago, this alien who's God fought this other alien who's the devil, and then the devil makes himself reborn in a child once every certain number of years. So the child is going to be reborn again. And the movie starts off with Franco Nero, who played Django in the movie Django, classic Western. He plays Jesus, basically, telling a bunch of children in heaven the story. And then God comes in and he's like, it's happened again. And then they play this crazy 1970s music. And so it's about this child who's like kind of like Damien from The Omen.
Wow.
But her stepfather is played by Lance Henriksen.
Oh, you got Jay right there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Lance Henriksen is in this movie. I'm actually going to quickly go to the cast list of this movie because I didn't write it down because I'm a piece of shit.
It's okay.
I mean, look where you were in the Human Centipede chain.
Yeah, so this movie has a cast of Lance Henriksen, Glenn Ford, John Huston, Shelley Winters, as I mentioned, Franco Nero. So a pretty stacked cast of like big 1970s actors and big actors in general. But yeah, what a weird and bizarre movie. Halfway through, Glenn Ford plays a detective. It's like a detective TV show where he's trying to solve this murder. The music is really, really phenomenal. Just like crazy 1970s music. It's hard to like wrap your mind around just the craziness of this movie. But I really liked it. Lance Henriksen did not like it. He said that it was a turkey.
Well, look at his resume. Really?
They can't all be winners.
At the end of the day, you're in a lot of those, Lance, and it's okay because we love them anyway.
Yeah. Also, it's also a movie that's also really successfully delivers on also being hilarious, both intentionally and non-intentionally.
Oh wow!
This movie had a lot of money poured into it. Like it's a blockbuster movie.
Right.
It's like a beautiful train wreck, basically. I had a good time watching it.
Gotta watch that.
Yeah.
No, she scares me, Raymond. There's something I don't know. You don't know, you can't even imagine, but she's my baby, my little girl, and she came out of me. It's not her fault.
You've been feeling strange lately, Barbara. Confused. This confusion has been transmitted to you from another time, another place, beyond human knowledge and understanding. There are forces, inhuman ones, out of this world, and they are unspeakably evil.
What are you begging me for?
Well, I just,
Oh my God, what is that? Go fuck yourself.
That shit. You used your powers to make it go faster.
No, I didn't.
Don't you talk to me like that! How dare you talk to me or anybody else like that! Oh my God, what is that?
So, my next movie, number 27, I watched because of Witchfinder General. When I was reading about how Witchfinder General kind of spawned a new genre of movies in Germany, there was a movie that was made called Mark of the Devil in English, but its German title translation is Witches Tortured Till They Bleed.
That's real on the nose.
1970 West German horror movie starring Uwe Boll.
Oh, no.
They said
in it?
Yeah, he's the main actor.
He didn't direct it.
No, he's
Well,
not. He acts in it. This
that's
is like
a plus, I
this is
guess.
part of his like earlier German acting
we
career.
sure?
Yeah, because 1970. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's young Uwe Boll, and the movie was rated V
Is he
for
a better
violence.
actor than he is a director?
No, you know what? He was not a terrible actor in the movie.
Okay.
But I mean, the movie is just people wanted to make Witchfinder General again, but in like sicker ways. Maybe not necessarily succeeding. I don't know.
Mhm.
It seems like it was made to cash in at the time. The company that released it, some of its U.S. marketing slogans were positively the most horrifying film ever made and rated V for violence, and they gave sick bags to people who bought tickets to see the movie. but it was okay.
They still do that for Weeble films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how they just pull out the sick bags every few years.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was not as good as Witchfinder General, but I was entertained. As much as you can be watching innocent people get tortured for witchcraft. So,
right.
Did you think the sick bags had the movie title on it? Like, I wonder if anybody has those.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Number 28 was a movie that's actually I've been wanting to watch for years. So it's from 2012, a movie called Hellbenders, a horror comedy directed by J.T. Petty. I wanted to watch it for years because I was a really big fan of The Burrowers, which is a Western horror movie he made.
Yeah.
He mostly does a lot of stuff for video games, so he doesn't really veer over into movies very much. But this was kind of his follow-up to The Burrowers, and it was a horror comedy, which is basically about there are a bunch of demons that are too evil to be exorcised. So there's a branch of the Catholic Church which are all priests who it's their job to live as sinfully as possible and be as horrible human beings as they can. So if an exorcism doesn't go well, they can say, oh, you can enter me, and then they kill themselves, and then they would drag the demon into hell because they were for sure going to hell because they're living a super sinful life.
What a genius concept. I like it.
I think it's an offshoot of the whole, like, Sin Eaters thing where people would pay people to eat their sins so they could go to heaven.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the movie has a pretty good cast. Clancy Brown is one of the main characters, and he is very, very entertaining to watch.
He's an evil priest?
Yeah, he's like the leader of all the priests and the
Holy ground, Highlander.
He makes sense.
Yeah, he's just cursing the whole time, and he's like doesn't wash, and he's fun. The main character is Clifton Collins Jr., who people might recognize from Westworld, and he was also in the sequel to Boondock Saints, but
let's not talk about that.
Yeah,
I know who you mean, yeah.
Yeah, I actually really like him as an actor, and it's really rare that he shows up in roles that he's really featured in, because he kind of is in a lot.
Well, he's that guy in that thing. That's what kind of his career is.
Yeah, and he's been in like a lot of movies, but he was really good in it. Yeah, the movie I thought was actually pretty funny. It had some good special effects.
Unlike Boondock Saints 2?
Yeah. Dan Folkler is also in it. The movie's actually primarily stars character actors, I'll be honest. But
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong at all. There's some great character actors out there that I don't think get enough of recognition for their abilities.
Yeah, and I feel like really for what it was, like they really, like it's a movie where there's only so far you can take that concept in terms of comedy, but they get a lot of mileage out of it, probably about as much as you can. The story is pretty good. But yeah, it was fun. I actually would recommend it. I had a good time.
Cool.
It's also on Shudder. Oh, callback earlier, I was talking about Simon King of the Witches. It's a really hard movie to find, but if you did want to watch it, weirdly enough, I found out that Scream Factory, the company that puts out all those horror Blu-rays, they have a selection of titles that you can watch on their website for free.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, and one of them is Simon King of the Witches.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
And the reason that one's on there is because when it was released on Blu-ray, it was in collaboration with a company called Code Red, which is a smaller Blu-ray company that only sells within the States.
Right.
But so yeah, you can watch it on their website for free.
I was
as
just
well
going to
as
say
other
that
movies.
really messes me up every time you say that, because I have a friend named Simon King. So it's like Simon King of the Witches. I'm like, that's not Simon.
Yeah, so Hellbenders was good. I liked it. 29 was a movie that Jay I think finally sold me on, in conjunction with a whole bunch of other movies from this director that I really love, and I never watched this one. It was Hush from 2016.
Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, Mike Flanagan is really solid. And this was a movie I always wrote off because it's really short. It's like an hour and 16 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like shorter than, like, it's almost like a long episode of a TV show, but it does not feel short.
And
Mike
I think
Flanagan,
that's probably what hurt it as a theatrical.
Yeah.
Is because of its short runtime. But damn, it's a solid, like, stalker killer movie.
Yeah, it's really tight. It's really well written.
Yeah.
Mike Flanagan really is a master of building mood and tension and atmosphere in all of his movies. And this movie is really solid.
If you're a stalker type of serial killer who likes to toy with your prey, but can't get their attention because they're deaf.
Yeah, and he really used the concept. So the movie is about a woman who's a deaf mute, who's an author, who lives in the woods. Kind of, if you've ever been to Washington or places in BC, there's just areas there where they're like the rural areas of the plains where we live in Alberta, but there's just lots of trees. So she lives out in this house, her neighbor's across the way, but then her neighbor gets killed and she can't see it because, her neighbor's pounding on her window, but she can't hear it because she's deaf. And the whole movie just makes a lot of use of, what it's like to be stalked in your own home if you can't hear anything. And it's really good.
And you kind of, like, when you're watching it, you kind of take on the fear she should be having in those situations because she doesn't know he's there. It's just going on about her day for a good long while before she realizes what's going on and then starts putting up a fight. And in a way, she's kind of got the advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was very solid. Mike Flanagan is definitely probably one of the best horror directors working today.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that without controversy.
No, I think we have established that over the last 31 Days of Horror now. We've done it 3 years in a row, and Flanagan just keeps being on the list. So
Yep. And number 30, this is a movie I've been wanting to watch for a while. I'm really glad I did. Frankenhooker.
This goes along very well with Sam's number 30.
Yeah.
Yes, it does actually very well, yes.
Frankenhooker was freaking hilarious.
Sam and I both worked at a video store at the same time when this actually came out, direct to video, and it was an oversized box that went on the shelf, and you could press a button and hear Frankenhooker. What was it?
Want a date or something?
Yeah, it was something like that. Want a date?
Hey, want a date?
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a vacuum formed front too, so it was 3-dimensional on top of it all.
Yeah, so you could feel her up before renting it.
No, that movie was it was hilarious. I had a really good time. I was actually surprised at how funny it was and how it's trashy, but it's not like trauma trashy, which is kind of what I was expecting. It's actually really smartly written. There's even small character moments, he's it's like this guy where his overweight girlfriend dies, and then he's trying to Frankenstein, trying to figure out how to bring someone back from the dead. He's preserved her head in his freezer. But there's this small moment where all of the photos on his walls are crooked, and he looks over and there's one frame that's not crooked, and he walks over and he makes it crooked.
Just easier.
There's just small moments like that where I was like, no, this movie is actually really cleverly written. It was pretty funny. I had a good time. Then finally,
I forgot how fun that movie was.
Yeah, it was really fun.
I don't remember much about it, but it's just dumb. I remember being dumb fun and thinking I am laughing. I don't know why I'm laughing, but it's funny.
Yeah. Oh, and the actress who played the Frankenhooker titular character, she was really good, and I think it's a shame that she wasn't really in any more movies after it.
Yeah.
She was really solid. Great comedic timing. My number 31, I actually watched while I was sewing my Halloween costume on the day of Halloween, an hour before my Halloween party.
Nice.
So this was, I left it to the last minute. Yeah, it's Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare.
Hey! Yeah.
Yeah.
I started thinking about it, I'm like, oh, Roseanne's in that.
Yes, and has that stupid video game sequence.
You know what? The video game sequence I thought was hilarious.
That was actually one of the
because he had a power
parts.
glove, but it also incorporated his real glove.
Yeah.
That was really good.
I mean, it was pretty witty and funny, but it was also not very good.
They've given up on trying to be a horror movie.
So
at that point.
I'm definitely going to
I don't remember that one.
spoil the crap out of the last couple Nightmare on Elm Street movies for people who are
It's
listening.
fine.
But so I had just watched Nightmare on Elm Street 5. And in Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, the whole movie so to recap the franchise, there's Dream Warriors, and Christy from the first one was in Dream Warriors, and she was one of the Dream Warriors. And at the end of 4, she gave her power to be a Dream Warrior to another girl who's in college, or who was in high school. And 5, that girl who now has her power, they defeated Freddy at the end of 4. He hasn't been around. But when he died, he imprinted himself upon her unborn child that she didn't notice she was having. Or he was living in her subconscious. And then so he's trying to control her unborn child and be born into the world as her child and to come back. So I thought when Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare said 15 years later, they go into this big thing, that it would be about the kid. And it's about a kid, but it's not that kid.
Oh my
and
God.
Apparently it originally was supposed to tie into the last one, but they just didn't. Really weird missed opportunity to tie it into your franchise and just make it completely unrelated. Also, at the beginning of the movie, they say 15 years in the future, kids have been killing themselves all across America, and no one knows why all the kids are dying. and the only people around are adults, and there's rumors that there is one teenager left, and like really, the movie does not follow up on that premise at all.
No.
There's a ton of teenagers in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like...
sounds like the mom and dad virus was going around.
Yes.
And then they didn't make the movie.
Yeah, it was very strange. I was like, oh, what a cool concept. Like, Freddy's tormenting everyone, like, they're all dying, and then the rest of the movie, they're like, oh, no, they're all in an insane asylum. One of the kids is maybe Freddy's kid, but in order to be Freddy's kid in the timeline, he'd have to be 30.
Oh,
like, you know, it was just... It had some good moments, but I think it's one of the weaker Nightmare on Elm Street
director,
movies.
now, that was, I think, the lady that had been AD on a lot of them as assistant director.
She's directed actually quite a lot of TV.
Oh, yeah, I think that was like her directorial debut, was that movie.
The movie also had a very 90s soundtrack. I think the Goo Goo Dolls did the main theme.
Yeah, Goo Goo Dolls were in there. Alice Cooper's in the movie. I don't know if he's got a track.
Alice Cooper played Freddy Krueger's
dad.
father.
Yeah.
That was actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh, also,
I don't think I've seen
saying
this
this
one.
to my wife. There's the whole thing with not being the same kid from the land of the last one, even though it should be. But probably the biggest like universe breaking moment in the whole movie is when the guy's watching the TV and they're doing the drug commercial where the guy's like, "This is your brain on drugs." But he's like, "Hi, I'm actor Johnny Depp. This is your brain when it's on drugs." But how could Johnny Depp be in the movie when he is a character within this continuity already? It's not a different universe.
There's a rumor out there, well, more than a rumor than saying somewhere in the world your double exists.
Okay.
So in that world, that character died, but his double was Johnny Depp. I mean, and imagine if you got to go through life looking like a famous actor. Fuck yeah.
Your life's going to be okay.
I mean, nobody comments on him looking like Johnny Depp in the first movie, when Johnny Depp would have been popular.
But, no, he wouldn't have been. He would have been.
No, that was one of his
21 Jump Street at that point.
He wasn't even 21 Jump Street at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It was his first movie.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Actually, Platoon was his first movie, but Freddy was the first one to come out. If I remember correctly.
I'll headcanon that. Sure, why not? Why not?
I don't recall for sure.
I'm trying to no-prize this thing.
Yeah, I think in terms of the final Nightmare, it was kind of one of the weaker Nightmare movies, actually.
Okay.
I don't think
that's probably why the franchise died for as long as it did.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so this one's before A New Nightmare?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, then I definitely haven't seen that one then.
Okay, so your favorite for the week, just the week though?
I would say Starry Eyes.
And least favorite?
Ooh, that's tough. I actually had a pretty solid week. I would say Mark of the Devil. It's actually not... Yeah, that wasn't that tough. Mark of the Devil, I think, was the weakest. I wouldn't say it's a weak movie, but definitely weaker than all the other ones, for sure.
Okay.
Ooh, actually, strike that. It ties with Freddy's Dead, the final Nightmare, I think.
There we go.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that wasn't... I mean...
After what you said.
It's fun, but not particularly good.
This is my body. This is my blood. Happy are they who come to my supper.
All right, Trish, take us home.
All right, getting right into it. Okay, number 26, Dark Floors. Iceland, Finland. I told you you'd watched this many years ago.
Many years ago, because I've been doing 31 Days of Horror for years. And unfortunately, I wish I would have saved all the MySpace articles, but they have been purged since they reformatted that website, and nobody's there anymore. But I went and looked, and it's not there anymore. But I really like this, and I gave you a reveal about it.
Yeah, and I didn't even know.
Because you mentioned it to me. Go ahead and tell them what Dark Floors is, and then we'll get into that bit.
Dark Floors, it's father and his autistic daughter. She's gone in for tests, and then he gets kind of sort of a bad feeling about things, so he's like, I'm just going to take her home. And then he and 4 other people get into this elevator. They go down a few floors. When they get off, everything is different.
Yeah,
everything is dark.
They've silenced Hill, this
Yes.
hospital.
And so, like, part of it is them trying to get out and into, like, to get outside. And there's a whole thing with time, and there's monsters.
And there's monsters, these kind of almost bosses for each floor of the film that they got to get by. It's way better than it should be. It's a very enjoyable film. But when I first watched it, I'm like, okay, like... There's a couple of monsters that kind of look like they belong in gore.
That's what I thought.
So I had to go looking into the film. I'm like, it's weird because most of these monsters look like they belong in a heavy metal band.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are.
Yes.
The monsters are the characters from the band Lordi.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought
It's
you were
an
going to say they're
Iceland.
from the band Gwar, and I was going to say there's a Gwar movie I didn't know about.
It is.
It's
still,
an Iceland-Finland joint.
It's an
that's
Iceland.
why.
It's a Icelandic metal band that has a very similar theme. I actually like their music as well, which is funny because they don't actually have any music in the film.
No.
I don't even think in the final credits. They
Not
have it.
even.
But
Weird.
the big boss is Lordi himself, and at the end in the parking lot. Really fun movie. Like, it's not a comedy, but
No.
it's just one of those enjoyable, like, turn your brain off type of horror movies. It's nothing too super gory about it, but
No. It's more terror, and then there's like points of different terror, and then there's some stuff where the penny kind of drops, and you're like, wait a second. Like, when you watch it the first time, you don't get it, and then you watch it again, like, then they get to the second part, and you're like,
And I had discovered it, I think it was part of that 8 Films to Die For film festival that they usually do. I don't know, I really dug that movie. It's so weird to have, like, this heavy metal band movie, and I'm like, well, man, if they did more like that, I would watch the shit out of stuff like that if they did that more at that kind of level. Because it was actually really well made for how stupid it was. Such a basic concept.
It's a basic concept, but I mean, like, the execution is pretty good. I get the sensation, the feeling of all of it, and it did what a horror movie should do, is that at certain points I'm like, I don't know what's going on. What is this mystery? We must solve it. And then you kind of get there. But the girl who plays the daughter in this, I'm like, she's so good. And then, but at the end, I'm like, oh God, like what?
Yeah. Sometimes,
felt
like,
so horrified for her.
The band member archetypes feel a wee bit out of place. Like, why, at one point, like, why is the sand mummy here?
That one, I thought that was going to pay off a bit more.
Yeah, so they don't always go out of their way to explain why the monsters are the way they are.
Yeah, and the screaming woman, I expected more from that.
Yeah.
But it's sort of some of them felt a little shoehorned, but other ones like you could have done something with these that would have maybe.
Yeah.
Sounds like it would make a great video game or a great haunted house.
Right?
Yeah, both those things would have been fun. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little disappointed they haven't done a follow up with more of the Lordi guys.
I would still say watch it. It's a good watch.
Cool.
You could enjoy it. And then number 27 is Hide and Never Seek, 2016, South Korean. It's not so much found footage, but it's this.
Was Dark Floors 26? What was your 25?
Dark Floors was 25 was What Keeps You Alive. I did that last round. I think I went one
I
above.
think you did.
Because you told her to.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did. That was my bad.
And then, but Hide and Never Seek is South Korean, and it's you know how you have these YouTube channels of these personalities, and part of this, it kind of goes into like a really cool area where he's doing this thing where he'll go and to haunted areas and like try to debunk all the stuff that goes on there. And part of it, he's like, I'll do it if you give me so many power coins. And there are these people who are donating. There's the actual equivalent to actual money that they're getting paid to do this channel. And so there's this whole thing where it was called One Person Hide and Seek is what they called it. Like that was the translation of it. And you take a doll and you like submerge it in water. There's a ritual, but you have to burn the doll at the end. Otherwise you're in deep shit. And this girl doesn't. Somebody else steals it out. So like she's stuck in this place. And so he goes and investigates, and there's a whole other thing that happens. But it's quite good because part of it, he's like, do I keep going? And then like they'll donate more money. So it's very, and so the video actually works for it. Like for found footage, it's not really found footage. The video works for it because of what they're trying to do in this channel.
Oh, interesting.
So not too bad. They had, what was it? They had one side. Oh yeah. One line that I really liked. Human greed is scarier than any paranormal activity.
I like it.
Human greed is why Paranormal Activity kept going.
Yep. Because part of it, when he's debunking it, he's like, they paid this guy to like exorcise something or find this missing girl. And I'm like going, yeah, this is the face of a guy who's getting paid a lot of money. And that was his whole point. Number 28 is Cryptic from 2014. It's a British one. And it's one of those ones, a cast of characters in an enclosed space. And just having, it's very dialogue driven. What they have is there's this coffin in this crypt that these underworld bad guys are supposed to guard until their boss comes to tell them Yeah, they're in a crypt. It's called Cryptic, and
Got to work harder on those.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
That's actually pretty good.
It's a really good movie. Like, it's funny. It's interesting. It doesn't go where you think it's going to go.
Oh, that's a good sign.
The theory of it is that these bad guys in all these underworld bad guys are being taken out by a quote unquote vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, well, what is it? It's something to fight a vampire. And there's a timer on this metal coffin that is counting down from 30 minutes. And it's really good. And you have the main guy who's like, do you guys really fucking believe there's a vampire? Like, he doesn't use a gun. He's using his wits the entire time. There's all these thugs around. It's really good. I'm a new fan. The guy who's the main character, new fan. Liked him in it. He's really good.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'd watch that. It's nice. And it's such a simple concept. Like, you can make this movie and it's almost nothing. It's just that one area. It's brilliant. Okay, and then my next one, number 29, was Howl from 2015. And it's these commuters on a train that the train gets stuck or the train breaks down and there's a werewolf outside.
That's a British one, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think I have seen
I've
Howl.
wanted to see that movie.
You should.
for
It's
ages.
quite good.
It stars.
I love werewolf movies.
There's an actor
You will like
in
this
it
one.
who
Yeah, 'cause
was,
I did this one the
Tears
first
in
year.
Spaced. Can't remember his name. He's so good at everything
Oh.
he's in, though.
Yes, I do know who you mean.
I think I keep skipping by Howl because I get it confused with a different movie
Yeah.
that I think is called Wolf.
Yeah, so they're in this commuter train and they're trying to get, and actually one of the characters in this was the main character in Await Further Instructions many years later.
Okay.
But it's yeah, you have all these strangers on a train, a bunch of strangers trying to fight off some unseen
Simple,
attacker.
effective.
Some point throughout the movie, every single one of those characters you hate for just a minute.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there's not one character in there where you don't go, you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
At some point in the movie. Like, even the leads.
You got to be very careful with stuff like that.
And they do it so well. They do it
Sometimes
so
that'll
well
pop you
because
out.
because you still feel empathy for most of them. There's some when they meet their inevitable demise where you're like,
There's some
yes.
you're like, that was too late. It should have happened sooner.
Yes, but your lead characters, the ones you're supposed to empathize with, you do empathize with them, but they do assholish things.
Yeah.
The exact kind of things that people would do in a situation like this, where they are start looking out for their own self-interest because it's life or death.
Right.
Yeah.
But you still think they're an asshole for just that brief moment.
Exactly. And yeah, it's a lot of good fun. So
Cool.
yeah, I'd recommend watching it. My number 30 was Nightwish from 1989. I was like, sci-fi horror. I don't know what this movie is. I've watched it. I don't know. The weird thing is, like, I thought I might have seen it, and then partway through I'm like, maybe I didn't see it, and then most of the way through I'm like, what am I watching? I don't know what's going on.
I like that we've had a few of those this year.
Like, I feel like, I don't know. I feel very weird. I felt like I took a drug and nobody told me. And I watched 7 movies and thought it was this one.
I vaguely remember this movie coming out, and I vaguely remember watching it, and that's why I only vaguely remember it, is because it was incoherent.
It's not cohesive at all. And I was reading like a lot of background on it because I was just trying to untangle it. I couldn't figure it out. And a lot of it was, they did make it make a lot of sense because they wanted it to feel like a dream and like it really wasn't happening, because there's parts of it where they're trying to be paranormal investigators and you don't know if you're like awake or alive. Like, it's, and then there's like parasites that grow in people. It's a whole weird thing. And then there's like Brian Thompson, who's like the bad guy in Cobra. He's driving a van around, and they spent a lot of time where he's driving a van around to get there with like the lights and going around curves and course. I don't know. Watch it if you know what, I recommend people watch this, and can you explain it to me?
Yeah, if you can't make it out to your corner dealer and you're really desperate for a fix, just put on the movie.
Yeah, you want a nice acid trip, watch this one. That'll do it.
All right.
And now my number 31.
And we share this one, and that's why I held off on it, because I think it's a good movie to end 31 Days of Horror with. And that is 2018's
Halloween.
Oh, thank you for that. That's
Nice.
That's good. That's good. And there was just enough there that we probably won't get sued for using that.
Yes. Exactly.
It was really nice to get that John Carpenter score again. It makes you feel nostalgic for the franchise if you love it I think we've established I am not one of those people who love the franchise, but I really did enjoy this movie.
It makes it. I like what they did with it. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I'll watch her do all sorts of stuff. But how they tie it together, and Judy Greer, who plays her daughter, is one of those. She's one of those actresses. I mean, she should have more, kind of lead opportunities. But who she is in this movie makes the most sense. It's really good.
In a lot of ways, this shows you the long-term effects of what happens to a victim, and how it can affect a victim, and in different ways. Like in this case, it turned hardened Laurie Strode into the Terminator 2 franchise.
Exactly. Yeah, she's Sarah Connor.
She's a senior citizen, Sarah Connor, and she has basically been planning to kill Michael Myers for 40 fucking years, sitting at home, turning it into a Saw-like death trap.
And like having her, and like again, Terminator teaching her daughter how to make traps and how to shoot guns and how to deal with this stuff. But her daughter was taken away, and now she's living her own life and has her own daughter, who's now 17.
David Gordon Green and Danny McBride did the screenplay. David Gordon Green directed the movie. Jeff Fradley also contributed to the screenplay. And you can certainly pick out the Danny McBride moments, like they kind of stick out like a sore thumb at times.
Oh, really?
It still feels balanced. Like the movie does feel balanced.
For ages made like Eastbound and Down and Vice Principals, and a lot of those have a lot of like drama and darkness.
When they put out a humor moment, it's a little like too much.
It's like
it's just kind of stepping over the line of balance almost.
In some instances, it feels like they've just dumped a sketch in the middle of the movie. And that seems very jarring.
But it doesn't pop you out, oddly enough. It's just enough to go, yep, that was a Danny McBride moment. The movie can be frustrating at times, because I've seen this twice. The movie can be kind of frustrating at times because it has a bad habit of abandoning its characters. I mean, it's fine when they become a victim. I mean, sometimes that's what they're there for. But other times, there's like, specifically the boyfriend.
Yeah.
Who...
Nothing happens to him. What the fuck?
He's a pointless character. He does something douchey.
He was there for her to break up with? Like, what the hell?
And that's it. Like, wow. And they do that often and sometimes they'll spend so much time setting up a character just to kill them off before they can tie into the plot. I'm like, well, why did you spend so much time building the character just to throw them away? And it does that a lot. It throws its characters away a lot and loses the character momentum a lot. Even in your main teen character, Laurie Strode's granddaughter, disappears for a good portion of the movie in the third act before coming in.
She's in the woods, and then that's when Michael's concentrating on the house.
Yeah,
which
and you almost forget about.
I sort of get, but I'm like, they should have. I can see they did one moment where they kind of cut back to her. They should have cut back to her more often, or they should have found a way to get her to the house sooner. That was what I felt was sort of a problem with it. But ultimately, when they were doing that, I did notice she was gone. But I was still very satisfied watching Jamie Lee Curtis and Judy Greer in that house doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
There was some frustration, but it was... There's some bits that, you could easily tighten. Like, there's some characters, again, you're like, what they shouldn't have done, they should have just ditched the boyfriend character entirely.
Yeah, I felt that too.
They could have easily have done that.
Overall, solid film, solid entry into the franchise. It's kind of weird going into a franchise when you've seen most of them, and then you're told, oh, they don't count anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like it is the first movie and then this one, but it's fine. You can just say, okay, you can take that path, or you could take the much longer
adventure series.
And it's a neat approach to things. I mean, Leatherface franchise has kind of been doing that as well. So we might see more of that down the road.
I read Danny McBride mentioned something about how they specifically decided to axe 2 as well, because like he's not related to Michael Myers. Why would Michael Myers ever want to come after him? Like, that's not.
Yeah, because I mean, even though that movie takes place right after the first one, it's not really Laurie's movie anymore. Like for that whole movie,
and, like,
Laurie's
the whole,
barely in it.
It should have been her movie.
Like Sister Revelation and all that stuff. Like, I can see why they wanted to just take him back to being like a slasher who could kill anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, lots of cool Easter eggs in there for old fans.
So many cool Easter eggs that you can sort of get. But it was, there was moments too that are really, really landed, where you talk about what it does to a victim for years when Laurie Strode shows up to the quote unquote family dinner, which she wasn't really invited to, and just kind of loses it. And it's like, yeah, it's an emotional time for her. So it was a good moment to have. I felt it was very important, and also established the bond between the granddaughter and the grandmother that they don't really have and they should have had.
Yeah, and it is about family healing in a lot of ways too, and that there was a point to the life that she lived and the family splitting off because of it, for the moment that did happen, that she foresaw. Instead, proving that she wasn't the crazy lady, but
she wasn't even hoping for it, from what I've understood. What I understood from the trailers,
and it also sets up again another one of those might be a victim scenarios. Whether Michael comes back or not, I don't know. They've set it up in a way where it could go a couple of different directions. So,
well, there was a part I thought it was going a completely different direction with that doctor. And
I'm glad that it didn't. I was about ready to walk out on that one.
I was that would have made me furious. But the concept of having the doctor be so obsessed, I liked that kind of note as well. Like somebody who's let his obsession really fuck up what he should be fucking doing.
Okay, well, let's get to what's your worst of the week and what's your best of the week?
Oh, see, this was a pretty decent week. I mean, even as much as I say about Nightwish, it's going to have to be the worst, basically because I didn't understand it. But it wasn't as bad as all that. Like, that's the weird thing. You can watch it, but you don't understand it. For the best, this is a hard week for me because, I liked a lot of this stuff. I am going to have to go with Halloween because I really did love it.
Okay, now this is where we start moving around the room because this is the most difficult part. The best and worst of the month. Now, I think... this is a toughie for worst.
Yeah,
my worst is a no-brainer.
Mine is too.
For my whole list, I was really fortunate. Generally, I had a really good month watching movies.
I did too. I mean, there's usually at least one bad one.
I started my month off on my bad one. It was the worst one of the month. Unquestionably, Bleed was the worst movie I watched all month.
Right. Mine, I'm going to have to give it to The Ants. It Came from the Desert. Terrible. I just hated that movie, and which is saying something when I'm comparing it up to Cell Count.
Yeah.
It looked better than Cell Count, and in a lot of ways it was shot better than Cell Count. Fuck it. It's a tie. Cell Count's awful, too. How about you, Jeff?
I'm really thinking about it because, movies age differently after you've watched them. We've had a little bit of time to kind of meditate on all the movies that we've watched. I think for best, I think it would be Starry Eyes. Like, there's a lot of really good movies I watched, but that one really blew me away. That one was also had a lot of originality, and I don't think that there was really anything I could say about it that was not good. So yeah, Starry Eyes I think was my favorite. For the worst, that's tough. I think in the last episode, I really was talking about how Yoga Hosers was not a big fan of, but kind of thinking about it again, like Nightmare also really didn't.
6, right?
Sorry.
Nightmare. Oh, Nightmare. Yeah, sorry. You got so many nightmares.
Oh, I know. Sorry, Nightmare, aka Nightmare in a Damaged Brain. But also Freddy's Dead was kind of underwhelming. I'd say that there was moments I enjoyed from Nightmare in a Damaged Brain, Yoga Hosers, and Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. But ultimately, those were, I think, the 3 weakest movies I watched in the whole month.
What was your weakest?
My weakest? There's 2. Like, minutes past midnight, it's that one section that I think is just weakest, so I don't think I should damn the whole movie for that. But Tasteophobia, overall, most of those shorts were incredibly weak.
Right.
So I have to put that at the bottom.
So the anthologies didn't score high this year.
No, it's yeah.
Okay, we know Jeff's favorite. What was yours, Sam?
Oh, see, I have 3 that are sort of really, really close together. I'm really happy that I have 3 that were that tight. Because, there's The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears, which has a great title, but I don't think it quite makes my favorite. It's and Force of Lost Souls is really good, but I think I'm going to have to go with The Boys in the Trees, just because while it was the least horror-ish of the 3, it's also just the one that really just stuck with me. It's the one I wanted to talk about the most. It's the one that made me want to share it.
Yeah, and I think that's sometimes the key. Like, you know, your favorite doesn't necessarily mean the best either. If it's the one you most excited to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. And the one that I think people should see.
Yeah.
Right? Just because it's...
Well, in your mind, that is the best. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but yeah, those three. I would recommend any one of those three, or actually, I would recommend all three of those three. But certainly, definitely, Boys on the Trees was just, as a whole, it had everything that I could want in a film.
Yeah. Cool. And Trish?
Oh, for me, like Halloween and Double Date, very, very, very high on my list. Like I really enjoy both those movies for very different reasons. But I think the one that just edged it out, and I think it's the same thing as what Sam's talking about, ones that I want to talk about and ones that one that has stuck with me was Await Further Instructions. It was just so tense for me and how it sort of unfolded and what was happening. It's one I don't even know. Like I want to watch it again to see if I can figure out more about it. It's just, I think it was the best one.
You know, and for those who haven't seen it, it takes place around Christmas. Perfect for Christmas horror movie viewing.
Exactly.
There you go. You know, and I had such a great list as well, and there were so many really well-made movies. Mandy was bonkers. Annihilation is right up there. Such an amazing film. Apostle was so well made. Ghost Stories was excellent. They made a maze. It's incredible what they did. All that cardboard, which they got for free.
Nice.
What We Do in the Shadows, really great stuff. The Endless, Wildlings right up there. The Ritual, not bad. Maybe not. I won't put it that high.
It was okay.
But it was okay. But you know what? Spring. It's the one that I'm much like Sam. It's the one I most want to talk about. The one that out of the entire list, I immediately kind of want to go back to. And I had the most emotional response to. A really well done movie. So, you know, congratulations to Benson and Moorhead. You got a fan. Especially because I got two of your movies out of the way. So, hustle up, make some more.
Yeah, I should have said The Endless also high on my list.
Yeah, for sure. That was high on my list too. But Spring, just with what they accomplished there and such a talented cast there that I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about all of them. It was such a tight and wonderful movie with the budget they had and what they were able to make. Such a beautiful movie. So got to give it to them. Yeah, we made it, guys.
Woohoo!
We did.
Boy. And I hope that it was easier to listen to both of those long episodes than it was for us to watch 31 movies we had never seen before.
that is very succinct.
We will never run out. There's always new and good ones. And like this year, there's so many really fascinating takes on horror. It's really good. It's an embarrassment of riches in some ways.
Yeah, and we're always happy, and that's part of it is the exploration of the genre, finding old things we've never seen before, finding new directors and new voices, and we're kind of entering another golden age in the horror genre as new voices are coming in with new takes on what they can do, new ideas, which is tough to do in a genre that seems you almost think at times is done at all. And I think we're getting some really interesting and unique voices now, and I'm really looking forward to the next few years and seeing what that does. At the same time, when you get those new voices, you always get the pretenders doing the knockoffs and that inevitably take the genre back down into a low. But I'll be enjoying it because I don't think we've peaked yet. So
no,
fingers crossed.
Hopefully.
And when all else fails, go to European, Australian,
there's
Asian horror. Because they still do new stuff. Yeah,
strong foreign horror movies, and I'll admit I don't have nearly enough on my list this year.
Yeah, I should have had more.
Yeah, but you know that was Amazon giving me a distaste for subtitles. I'm like, oh boy, I'm gonna have to go find another source. But Netflix is fine with theirs. So
the struggle is real.
The struggle is real sometimes. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please find us on your social media if you haven't already liked us and followed us on Twitter. We are at Invasion Remake on Twitter, Invasion of the Remake on Facebook and Instagram, and invasionoftheremake@gmail.com if you want to email us. It would take take requests as well. If they're good enough, we will make an episode out of it. And make sure you tell your friends where to find us. We're everywhere. Just find us on your favorite app. If you listen to us on Radio Public, we actually do get a little kickback out of that, so that would be great if you want to switch to that. That's a great app that we get a little something back. But if not, we're available in all the other places that you enjoy us. So please tell all your friends where to find us. And that's it. I'm gonna keep that really short. I've been Jason.
I'm always Sam.
I continue to be Trish.
I always come back as Jeff.
Always come back.
And we are out of here.
Why run, Terry? Why run? Do you know where you are? You are at the door to dreams, Terry. Now, there are 2 keys in this room. One is in the pocket of this fool. You could take it out without me reaching you. Probably. And let yourself back into that world you've always known. Banal. Hopeless. Dreamless.
And the other?
The other? Oh, Terry. The other is the key to dreams. To black miracles. Dark wonders. Another life of unknown pleasures. It's yours, Terry. Complete the battle. Solve the puzzle. Turn the key.
Where is it?
It's lying bleeding at your feet. Hell has no furies for a woman scorned.